view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening.
3, 2, 2, 1.
Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Dom, a little bit of a slow start, man. We've got all sorts of mischief going on here in our Brady Street studio today. Welcome, my good little buddy.
Crudy, always a pleasure, my man. We do pack it days full here on Brady Street, man.
And we got a fine guest right from the top. He's WRD Resistance Radio's own Earl Ingram Jr. from the Earl Ingram Jr. Show. Yeah, knuckles up, boys.
Knuckles up, Earl, man. Welcome back, dude.
Yeah, man. Well, I can't hear anything.
You got to hear? Take those headphones off, man. You don't need to be hearing nothing.
Well, that's good, man. Well, that's good.
Can
What's
you hear
going on,
now,
guys?
Earl?
Can
you hear me now, Earl?
I mean, pretend like you've been in the studio before, man.
No, but it doesn't matter. There you go. Yeah, now I can hear something.
Well, Earl, I thought we had big guests. I mean, we got big guests on this show today. We've got State Senator Jennifer Schilling. She is the Senate Minority Leader, about 3:30. We've got Dem Gubernatorial candidate Tony Evers, 4:30. But you're the biggest guest of all, at least guilt by association. Earl, you had the biggest guest of the day. You brought him in here. Eric Holder, the former Attorney General of the great United States of America.
Man, I was honored. A great guy. But even more honored for the radio station and the fact that we are growing leaps and bounds, and to have Eric Holder grace 1224 East Brady is a great positive for the radio station.
Buddy, he signed the table out there, but you're the only one that took a selfie with him.
I'm not big on selfies, but my wife, if I wouldn't have done it, probably wouldn't have been able to.
Oh, it was all for your wife's benefit.
Social media. A pretty guy like you, Earl, you should be on the social media all the time, man.
Earl, before we talk about the meat of the interview, it was warm in here this afternoon, nice and sunny in our Brady Street fishbowl. And the Attorney General, former Attorney General, wearing a nice suit, he was sitting right there where you're standing now. You were sitting or standing. Sitting. Lazy man. Sitting where I'm standing right now. And it started getting a little hot in here. I was in here getting a little video for posterity's sake on your behalf. But it started getting a little warmer and warmer. I mean, I started, I gave the I'm hot sign to Fancy Brian. He turned on the AC in here. And I'm looking around, and the former Attorney General, no beading of sweat, cool as a cucumber, didn't loosen his tie, didn't take the sport coat off. I mean, that man, he's a cool customer.
No, I think he's been on platforms a little bit larger than this one.
I bet in the best shape of anybody in the building.
Without question. At 67 years of age.
Right.
Yeah, that was amazing to me. I didn't think he was that old.
Earl, if he was on right now, I bet he'd be sweating a few bullets. I'd have him sweating. Let's talk about right before you pre-recorded, and this interview is going to play out tomorrow morning. My understanding, about 7:30, you plan on playing this interview?
That's correct.
Awesome. So tomorrow morning, everyone better tune in. A long-form interview, our own Earl Ingram Jr. on his morning show. 7 to 9 is the show. The Eric Holder interview will play out at 7:30. But there was some breaking news immediately before you recorded this interview. We're going to share a little bit of this sound with the people. I'm not going to steal all your thunder, Earl.
Tease it a little bit, Earl.
So is it a surprise that you're going to change the name of the show to the Eric Holder Show? Was that? Wow.
Eric, come on. Is that him? You trying to be funny, Earl? Come on, that was like a Led Zeppelin up in here. Maybe the Earl Show, trying to work both ends of the calendar. Fancy Brian, let's do this. Earl, you had the opportunity to ask the former Attorney General about this breaking headline. Russian Twitter trolls were stoking racial tensions in regards to Sherman Park. that was immediately before the elections in 2016. They were doing so, I would say, with nefarious purpose. And this headline broke at the Journal-Sentinel, and you had the chance. You had the big guest. You asked Eric Holder. We've got the sound. Let's play it, and then I'm going to have you respond to his answer. Fancy Brian, if you would, play Eric Holder and Earl Ingram Jr. earlier this morning in this studio.
Breaking news, Russian Twitter trolls stroke racial tension in the wake of the Sherman Park riots. Are you aware of that?
I was not aware of that, but, in some ways it doesn't surprise me. I think that as we get more and more into this, we're going to see that the Russians were a lot more sophisticated in what it is that they did during the 2016 election, and which really means that, the Trump administration's got to do substantially more. Well, actually, they have to do anything, because they're not doing anything at this point, to prepare us for what the Russians undoubtedly are going to do in 2018 and certainly again in 2020.
Well, he's a cool cucumber. He's a silver-tongued devil, right? Former Attorney General. He's a lawyer, but in this case, Earl, new news to him. It had just broken. But what's your reaction? You lived through this here.
My reaction is that that's the neighborhood that I live in. Where most of that unrest took place is probably maybe less than 2 miles from where I live. And so when all of that was taking place, my wife and I came out, saw these things going on, and were really kind of unbelievable. It's unbelievable to us that was taking place in what is arguably a very quiet community and neighborhood, one of the most diverse neighborhoods in the entire state of Wisconsin. So it was certainly uncharacteristic to see it, but to later on to find out that the Russians even knew that Sherman Park existed. I'm not even sure that people in Washington, D.C. know we exist. So to me, that's the most troubling thing about this, is that all of us are under a microscope, doesn't matter where we are, if they're able to see what's taking place in my neighborhood, then they're watching everybody else's neighborhood.
Well, Earl, perhaps it was Sheriff David A. Clark Jr., then Milwaukee County Sheriff, that shone a light. He is obviously pro-Trump. He's now left Milwaukee County. Whew. But at the time, he was tweeting out. I mean, this guy has always called Black Lives Matter Black Lives Matter.
Right.
He's always called this a terrorist organization talking about Black Lives Matter. And the fact that there was propaganda, or worse, there were lies being thrown about, as the Journal-Sentinel reports. Scott Walker called up the National Guard. That part's true. But these trolls, I guess Russian Trump trolls, Sheriff David A. Clark trolls, were saying that there were Black Lives Matter activists that were trying to start violence with the National Guard. Now, the National Guard never came to Sherman Park. What's your reaction to that? I mean, this could have led to violent consequence.
Well, clearly, based on what we witnessed through our own eyes, was frightening, to say the least, because young people who were out at that point in time, especially when the police had basically shut down that area, and people were angry and upset and screaming and hollering, and all I could think about clearly was 50 years before, with the riots that took place when I was about 14 years old on Dr. King Drive, and a time that was so harrowing to us at that point in time, and registered on the Richter scale across this nation with unrest. That happened here in this city 50 years ago, and all I could do is, and I was 14 at the time, all I could do is think back at that time and the dangers that we thought we were going to be facing.
Folks, you're listening to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show right here, Wisconsin's Resistance Radio Network. We got one of our own live in studio. He had a big guest today. He's Earl Ingram Jr. from Mornings, right here in this little studio at the mothership at WRD 1510 AM. And today he had Eric Holder Jr., the former Attorney General of the United States, in studio. I was privy. I was your cameraman today, Earl. I was doing the heavy lifting over in the corner here. Eric Holder, let's talk a little bit more about the interview you had with him. You know, there were some other topics. We know he is supportive of Rebecca Dallett, and his organization has put money behind her. We know that his organization is suing Scott Walker because Scott Walker fails to hold the special elections that are due voters in the former Keith Rip district and the former Frank Lissay district. You had that conversation with him as well. But Earl, it's not just the Russians that have African-American voters under attack right here in the great state of Wisconsin. I mean, I think he and I would agree, and I know that you would agree with the assessment. It's Scott Walker and the Republicans as well. I want to share a little more of this sound. I'm not sure of the cut. Fancy Brian, if you could help us, let's play Eric Holder talking about Scott Walker. I believe it's cut 1, my friend.
Yeah, he has done more, I think, to harm our democracy generally, and certainly specifically here in Wisconsin, than maybe, he's an elite company, and a really elite negative company. I mean, in terms of the gerrymandering that he and the Republicans have done in Wisconsin, the voter ID laws that they have put in place that have suppressed the vote generally, but specifically affected the African-American community.
And he went on that topic specifically, suppression of African-American voters. Our friend Earl Ingram Jr. with former Attorney General Eric Holder earlier today. If you would, Fancy Brian, play cut 5.
If you look at what has happened in Wisconsin, in addition to gerrymandering, voter suppression, you look at the impact of that. There's a study that shows that in the last election, approximately 45,000 members, residents of the state were prevented from getting to the polls, and a disproportionate number of those people were African American. And that has national consequences when you think that Trump won this state by about 22,000 votes. And if you assume, and as I think we can, that the vast majority of African Americans would have cast a ballot for the Democratic candidate, that could have had an impact on the outcome of the election. So this has real-world consequences.
Now, Earl, the one thing I think that went unsaid by the former Attorney General is his tour of media locally, I think, in no small part, is to take this plea to the African-American community. And I know, Earl, we're not here to shoehorn anyone, but I know that's a big part of your audience. Earl, what do you think your message, what do you think Eric Holder's message to Milwaukee African-Americans was ultimately? And remind them again when you're going to play this fine interview in its totality with Eric Holder.
I'll say this. I think based on what I heard with this breaking news, I, like many others, had assumed that the reason that 41,000 less people voted, and the majority of them we believe to be African Americans didn't vote, was because Obama wasn't on the docket. But as it turns out now, with the information we're getting now, that hidden hand played a major role, that people were denied access. And so when you hear that, I know that it's part of the reason why the community in which I live is in the worst condition of any in this nation, and that is heartbreaking. So certainly in my conversations I had with Eric Holder, even afterwards and off the air, he agreed that it is unacceptable for the conditions that exist here. So clearly what we want to do is make sure that we organize and get people out and understand that now we've got somebody behind all of this who will check it and make sure it's done. But we're going to be airing this tomorrow morning during the 7:30 hour. Is there such a thing as a 7:30 hour?
There is now.
In Betsy DeVos's world, there is.
At 7:30 on the Friday edition of the Earl Ingram Show, News Talk 1510 AM. Join us.
Yeah, man.
Well,
Happy
kudos.
Friday.
Yeah, kudos to you, Earl. That is a big get. The former Attorney General in our little studio here on Brady. I mean, the only bigger guest that's been in this room today is perhaps you, sir.
Come on, man.
Tune him in tomorrow morning and every other weekday morning. Earl Ingram Jr., 7 to 9 a.m. And, of course, on the weekends, he often goes in the community, 12 to 3. Earl Ingram Jr., thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Earl.
All right.
Folks, we'll be right back. Devil's Advocates on Wisconsin's only Resistance Radio Network.
It is pitchfork and torches time in America.
By the way, not in my opinion, in the opinion of hundreds of thousands of people on Twitter.
Come on, man.
I'm afraid right now for the future of my children's generation and those to come.
In this age of mass school shootings, Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker offers the same bold agenda of the National Rifle Association.
Make sure you remember in your thoughts and more importantly in your prayers.
While Walker offers platitudes, he blocks meaningful gun safety legislation.
It's really an honor to work with the NRA not only in my state but across the country. And I'm proud of my A+ ranking as a governor.
Walker weakened the gun laws in Wisconsin, and then he got $3.5 million worth of NRA support.
There have been men and women of courage who've been willing to stand up and think more about the future of their children and their grandchildren than they thought about their own futures.
Scott Walker, you are not one of them. This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org, p4ppc.org.
You wanted to see me?
Yes, please, have a seat. So here's the thing. When this company brought you on, we took a chance on you. You didn't have that 4-year college degree we typically look for.
Right.
But we gave you a shot anyway. And since then, you've worked incredibly hard and given it your all.
Thanks.
You've been an important asset to the team, but I don't think you can be an intern here anymore. We want to hire you.
You're serious?
Absolutely.
Find your next great employee. Introduce yourself to the grads of life. Who are they? Talent worth knowing about. Young adults of unique determination and experience. An ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
I won't let you down.
I know.
Don't miss out on a resource many innovative companies have already discovered. Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
I was on Zero Res Madison's Facebook page the other day, and they have almost 2,000 testimonials from local customers. Apparently, I'm not the only one stoked on how cool this company is. A green technology that actually works better and doesn't cost more, it's a no-brainer, I'm in. We are starting our own Devil's Advocates revolution to free your carpets from harsh chemicals and soaps. Call Zero Res today and ask for the Diamond Crute Special 608-848-9000 or schedule online at ZeroResMadison.com. Zero Res, spell it forward or backward, it's the right way to clean.
If you're like a lot of companies, you know you need IT, but you aren't sure where to start. That's where Five Nines comes in. Hi, I'm Todd Stryker, President and CEO. For almost 15 years, Five Nines has been providing IT solutions to companies just like yours. We'll show you the solutions that are right for your business and give you the roadmap to success in the future. Find us at 5nines.com. That's the number 5, NINES.com.
Have a drink at Regano's Roman Coin. This neighborhood corner tavern is as classic as the street it occupies. Family owned and operated since 1966, Regano's Roman Coin is located in a former Pabst Tide House on historic Brady Street, serving an array of craft beers with a focus on Wisconsin breweries. Also, weekly drink specials, trivia on Wednesdays, seasonal sporting events, parties hosted for all occasions, and pet friendly. Open 11 a.m. Tuesday through Friday, 10 a.m. Saturday and Sunday, closed on Monday. Regano's Roman Coin, Milwaukee's pet friendly, cash only order and classic corner tavern.
The Devil's Advocates.
U.S. Senator Ron Johnson, our friend, live via phone. What about simply raising the age of weapons purchases to 21 years of age?
We're sending 18, 19, 20, 21-year-olds over to Afghanistan, and they're dying. They ought to be able to vote. They ought to be able to have a beer, and they ought to be able to buy a gun to hunt with as well.
Are you suggesting we lower the drinking age?
No. Can't they do that now? What is the age nowadays?
It's 21, sir.
We drink when we toast. We toast when we drink.
Yikes.
1, 2, 3.
The Devil's Advocates. Never personal, only politics.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show live on Wisconsin's Resistance Radio Network. Also streaming live on Facebook and YouTube. On Twitter at Devil Radio. On the phones, always have time for you, 844-967-2789.
Dominic, I'm a little envious of our most prior guest. Who's the booker on this show?
This is what I'm saying.
Why didn't we get the former Attorney General of the United States?
What have you been doing, Crudy?
As much as I'd love to, take all the meat off that bone, we got to leave some meat on the bones. Earl's going to run out the entirety of that long-form
pirate
interview.
Earl's interview, man.
Can't we?
No.
Is that not Is that gauche?
I don't think that's acceptable in the radio industry.
But Earl's gone now. He won't even know.
You got to tune in tomorrow, Earl. Great job, man. Look forward to hearing it live on the radio tomorrow.
You know, it was super cool to meet the man, even though we weren't the show. We did hang out in the studio with him for, probably 5 minutes after the interview. And, I didn't have anything to say for 20 minutes, so I was chomping at the bit. So I told him some Scott Walker stories.
Nice.
And I told him...
The baby mama story?
No, I thought about telling him the baby mama story, but I thought it more interesting, more important to talk about Paul Singer. Let's not forget, major Scott Walker campaign donor Paul Singer is the guy that funded
originally
the Fusion GPS PP tape, the Russian dossier, if you will, on Trump. And Scott Walker was leading in the polls once upon a time. Back in 2015, he was the darling of the Christian conservatives, right? Well, until Trump ran. But you mean to tell me a massive Scott Walker donor who paid Fusion GPS did not share with his favored candidate, Scott Walker? It's Scott Walker uniquely the only candidate that felt it necessary to come out and defend himself and say, I didn't know there was a Trump dossier on Russia.
It's ironic. He was.
You know what the connection is?
Why would he step up and make such a statement? Why even get involved, open your mouth at all? I feel a little guilty, perhaps?
I'm wondering if the connection to the Russians, to collusion, to the troll farms, was it Scott Walker or was it Sheriff David A. Clark?
Oh, yeah.
Folks, come back with us. The Senate Minority Leader, she's a friend of ours. She's State Senator Jen Schilling. More Devil's Advocates when we come back on RRD, WTTN, Wisconsin's only resistance radio network.
I'm kind of a big deal. People know me.
Come on, man!
They'll challenge your authority because that's what kids do. But this car is your territory. And in here, your word is law. So when you say you won't move until everyone's buckled up, you won't budge an inch until you hear that click. Never give up until they buckle up. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council. For more information, visit safercar.gov/kidsbuckleup.
180 over 111, and I had a stroke. I couldn't speak or walk.
150 over 90, and I had a stroke.
This is what high blood pressure sounds like. You might not feel its symptoms, but the results from a stroke are far from silent. Get back on your treatment plan or talk with your doctor to create a plan that works for you. Go to loweryourhbp.org.
Head to toe, everything's changed.
Brought to you by the American Stroke Association, American Medical Association, and the Ad Council.
Ah, the bridge is out, and there are Scott holes everywhere. Come on. What's wrong with you? Listen to Wisconsin's Resistance Radio Network.
I'm Andy Buck, and I'm proud to be union.
Tell me about the underground economy.
Well, the underground economy is essentially workers being exploited, and they're being exploited all over the state. They're working for no benefits, no retirement, and if you don't join your brothers and sisters, you don't respect your craft.
Andy, why should I hire union?
Crudy, you should hire union because you want the job done right the first time. We represent the highest skilled, safety-trained workers in the industries that we represent. Glazers, painters, and drywall finishers. Join us. Painters and Allied Trades, District Council 7.
Hello, I'm Tom Bennett, President of Teamsters Local 200. In 1903, the International Brotherhood of Teamsters was founded, and our local union was founded in 1935 here in Milwaukee. During the last 115 years, the principles and values for the Teamsters Union have made many improvements for working families, creating a pathway to the American middle class. Teamsters have assisted families and communities in times of need. Currently, our active and retired membership are collectively working to benefit working families across this nation for retirement security and addressing long-term social needs here in Madison, Wisconsin, and in Washington, D.C. American workers do have a voice in the workplace. Let Teamsters Local 200 be part of that action plan for you. For more information, please visit us on Facebook at Teamsters Local 200 or visit our website at www.teamsterslocal200.com or give us a call at 414-771-6363. TeamstersLocal200.com or 414-771-6363.
Tune in to The Resistance, Wisconsin's Resistance Radio. Start your weekday off with the Earl Ingram Show from 7 to 9 a.m. Next is the Stephanie Miller Show from 9 to 11. Then from 11 to 2, it's the Tom Hartman Program. At 2 o'clock, it's 414 Wisconsin. Then from 3 to 6, it's the Devil's Advocates. Mandatory listening. Wisconsin's Resistance Radio. For Wisconsin's Resistance Radio, I'm Stu Daniels with your headlines. Milwaukee County is suing several drug companies and distributors for their part in the opioid epidemic. Wisconsin Republican Representative Michael Schraw from Oshkosh, who is a lead author on the bill to close Lincoln Hills, says Republican Senate Majority Leader Scott Fitzgerald is playing games and is attempting to kill the bill. Former Badger and Brookfield native Joe Thomas has announced his retirement from the NFL. Thomas was selected to the Pro Bowl in each of his first 10 seasons with the Cleveland Browns, but suffered a season-ending triceps injury about halfway through this past season. Outside today, sunshine and mostly clear tonight. Lows tonight in the low 20s, mostly sunny tomorrow and Saturday. Highs tomorrow in the mid-30s, highs on Saturday in the low 40s. For Wisconsin's Resistance Radio Network, I'm Stu Daniels.
Don't feel like going home, but all my cash is gone. Yeah, I got nothing to do tonight.
The Devil's Advocates, because freedom.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Dominic, we got a fine guest joining us right now, live via phone. She is State Senator Jennifer Schilling. She is the Senate Minority Leader, and most importantly, she's a friend of ours. Jennifer, welcome back to the Devil's Advocates.
Good afternoon. It's nice to be back with you.
Yeah, thank you, Jennifer.
Senator, I got to ask you, Governor of the state of Wisconsin has put forth a school safety proposition, $100 million. But before we talk about his proposition, Jennifer, I was up on the Capitol Square yesterday. I saw thousands of young people, and they're seeking real solutions. I got to ask you, Jennifer, do you think Governor Walker is offering any real solutions when it comes to gun safety in the schools?
Well, the biggest problem with Governor Walker's safety plan is that it doesn't address what is making the schools unsafe, and that is the availability of firearms. And had Governor Walker been in Madison yesterday, had he been at the Capitol yesterday, he would have heard that message from the students who are raising their voice about their concerns on gun safety and keeping deadly firearms out of the wrong hands. That the governor, the plan that he has introduced, it fails to address gun safety crisis that are facing our schools and our communities across the state and this country.
Jennifer, we know that Scott Walker has been a major recipient of NRA cash, and his big plan, as I understand it, is to create a new division in the Department of Justice, also headed up by an NRA darling and Brad Schimmel. But Schimmel's prior bright ideas have been to arm the students, or pardon me, let me restate, to arm the teachers. Scott Walker has advocated for that in the past, although a change of tone. Jennifer, there doesn't seem to be any appetite in Wisconsin for arming teachers. Is there any concern when this is shuffled off to the DOJ that might indeed occur?
Well, you're correct that Governor Walker is ignoring the pleas from Wisconsin students and residents, and once again siding with the National Rifle Association and what he is offering for his plan. And the idea of a school safety office being located in DOJ, which I think it should be located within the Department of Public Instruction. And we have an Attorney General who has been out there and supportive of the idea of arming teachers, just as President Trump floated that idea recently, and then to sort of put it on the states and say, look, it really should be a state call. I just think that office is that location is misplaced within the Department of Justice, and it really should be something that continues to work within the Department of Public Instruction.
Senator, Scott Walker really has only received these dollars from the NRA because he is weaken gun safety laws across the state of Wisconsin, whether it's background checks, whether it's the Castle Doctrine, whether it's signing concealed carry. Jennifer, do you think that Scott Walker really wants quote-unquote school safety, or is he trying to walk some sort of tightrope which will pacify these kids, yet also pacify his corporate masters at the NRA?
Well, and what we have put forward as Democrats, what we would, and we were not included in this plan. If he wants something to pass, it certainly should be bipartisan. He should bring in Democratic leaders to talk about this. But yes, as Democrats, and I think many people who look at common sense solutions, that reinstating the 48-hour waiting period, that makes sense and has shown time and time again to have overwhelming public support. It's the prohibiting of the sale of bump stocks. Students are calling on increasing the age from 18 to 21 to purchase certain firearms. It's prohibiting domestic abusers from possessing a firearm. That we Democrats want to look at a long-term solution for school safety. And again, the problem that I see with Governor Walker's attempt is it does nothing to address making it more difficult to possess a firearm. That he looks at some other things that I think, while trauma-informed care and the ACEs tests are important as we look at childhood trauma and adverse childhood experiences. But again, this movement by young people across this country has been about making it more difficult to purchase and access weapons.
Folks, you're listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show on Wisconsin's Resistance Radio Network. State Senator Jennifer Schilling, she is the Senate Minority Leader here in the state of Wisconsin, joins us on the phone. Senator, $100 million grant, and I'm curious to know how that number came about, allocated apparently from the general fund for building improvements, school resource officers, and training opportunities as reported in the Cap Times. Where's the money coming from, number one? Will any other budget items be impacted? And I'm assuming you're saying that this does not even come close to addressing what the actual problems would be, and that is the availability of these guns to these kids.
Well, and I'm curious, like you, about where that number came from. Again, he did not consult with any Democrats in putting this forward. As we look at the budget moving forward, where does that come from? Are there going to be cuts in other significant areas to make up that $100 million? Again, the grants, are they one-time grant funding for school districts? I think the proposal that the Democrats have put forward, which was in place in 2009, allowed school boards to exceed their revenue caps for school safety. That gives school districts much more flexibility to deal with ongoing costs and maintenance of the building, but also ongoing costs of security. And so, again, a lot of unanswered questions as the governor has rolled this out rather quickly, and it's light on some of the details.
Senator Assembly Speaker Robin Vos said that he'll take this up in special session next week. Want to get your take. Of course, we actually have citizens in the state of Wisconsin that are not represented in the Capitol because Scott Walker refuses to call a special election to backfill a couple of appointments to his administration. What's your take on that, Jennifer?
Well, first, we are seeing ongoing bickering between the Assembly, the Senate, and the governor and the Republican leadership. And they rolled out the budget last February with bickering that started over transportation. We saw a delayed budget by about 3 months. And now we are seeing it up until the very last minute of session, where there is political infighting with the party leaders calling themselves into special session or taking it up in regular session, and the Assembly adjourning for the year, refusing to come in unless it is in special session. And now today, it sounds like Senator Fitzgerald has said it could be taken up in regular session instead of special session. But I mean, cutting through all of that political bickering and the inability to govern are people voters want us to be problem solvers. They want us to tackle an issue. They want us to move on to the next one. And because of their political infighting, we have not been able to address transportation long term. We are, right now, all sense is that the reforms at Lincoln Hills and the youth corrections, that's on life support right now too, because the two heads of the Republican Party of the Assembly and the Senate, can't see eye to eye on stuff and are trying to one-up each other and play chicken. So we are seeing quite a bit of, real substantive reforms and investments and policy questions fall through the cracks and on the wayside because of this determination of really political partisanship. It's not even party, but it's their own Republican ideology, and really putting politics before people. And so I hope that we could get past that. I certainly think the electorate, there is something churning. The electorate is dissatisfied with the Republican agenda, both at the national level and at the state level. I think the governor is worried about his poll numbers and some of the things that I think he is trying to hang his hat on to run for re-election. Certainly Foxconn, and we saw the Marquette poll last week. It continues to be unpopular outstate. So again, there's a lot of political motives that are being put behind some of these things at this last 11th hour of session to move forward on, when honestly the administration should have been addressing this for the last 6 to 7 years.
We met Eric Holder earlier today. He came down to our studio where we were proud to host him. Earl interviewed him. The lawsuit, the Holder Group has sued the governor of the state of Wisconsin, Scott Walker, for his failure to hold constitutional special elections. Well, Jennifer, I guess one more minutia question. If there is a special session, is that not a constitutional trigger for special elections, the ones Scott Walker's been trying to avoid?
Well, and much of this, the refusal to call a special election for the first Senate district and an Assembly district, I think the governor and Republicans were surprised with a Senate Democratic win and a special election in January, that a seat that had previously been held by a Republican for 17 years was won handedly by President Trump, I think by 17 points in November of 16. And now in January of 18, the Democratic Senate candidate wins by 10 points. So that's a 27-point swing. I think they're uncomfortable calling these special elections because they feel that the wind is and the momentum is with Democrats right now, that there is a movement out there for change, that Democrats are enthusiastic, that independents have soured on the Republican agenda and are looking for real answers and leadership and the ability to govern. And because we will have these votes in the Senate and a special session, those 170,000 people in the Senate district, and 60,000 in the Assembly district will remain unrepresented. And those people deserve to have a voice and deserve to have an elected official representing them. And the governor's refusal to call a special election, I think, is pretty transparent about his concern about re-election efforts and the Republican brand moving forward in this election cycle in 2018.
Jennifer, is the Republican caucus in the Senate side, are they going to kill the closure of Lincoln Hills bill?
From what I can gather, that it's Assembly and Senate Republican leadership not seeing eye to eye on this, and there is some strained relationships, I think, within the triangle of Republican leadership with the governor and the leaders of the Assembly and the Senate. I think it's important, as we have needed to deal with youth reforms, juvenile correction reforms. We can get behind Democrats' support a regional approach, keeping those youth offenders maybe closer to their support network of family and their communities. But in the interim, too many youth and staff have suffered for too long as a result of legislative Republican inaction. And it's the safety and well-being of youth under the state's care that should be our priority. That there is a power play between Republican leaders that really is coming at the expense of worker and youth safety at Lincoln Hills. And I believe that Governor Walker, legislative Republicans, they've had plenty of time to act. 6 years. We've had a federal investigation going on for at least 3 years. And if they actually wanted to take some meaningful action, they would have addressed this in the budget, not the last few months of session. But this is too important of an issue to let political egos get in the way. And I think certainly we need to be looking at, in the interim, how are we supporting the staff and the programming there so those youth and the officers are safe in that institution.
Senator Schilling, our time is short. I'd be remiss, though, if I didn't ask you about what the Journal-Sentinel is reporting. Jason Stein and others, Russian Twitter trolls stoked racial tension in the wake of Sherman Park riots in Milwaukee before the 2016 election. When you couple this with the prior reporting, I believe it was NBC News, that says the Wisconsin, at least election rolls, had been penetrated by foreign actors. Here's the question, Senator. Are we doing enough as a state? Is Governor Scott Walker doing enough to preserve the integrity of the next round of elections this year in the state of Wisconsin?
Well, Republicans through the budget have underfunded the election commission. They have cut positions. They have fired the election commissioner. And at a time, the 2018 election cycle is already underway. And clerks, voters, the candidates, they should all have confidence in this election process. And I don't think that the Republicans have not invested enough to make sure that the Elections Commission is fully staffed, looking at calling for a security specialist to be on board to address many of these concerns. But certainly in Wisconsin, I mean, we are not immune from some of this election tampering that has happened nationally, and certainly the Republicans have done everything they can on their watch to eliminate the Government Accountability Board, then creating the Elections and the Ethics Commission, and then firing the election commissioner. And so again, we need to make sure that elections are carried out with integrity, that they are fair, but we also need to ramp up the security side to make sure that these elections can go forward without tampering from outside groups and outside nations.
Jennifer, are you implying that any of this election neglect, let's call it, by the Republicans and Scott Walker, do you think it is intentional?
I think that we need to make sure that we are giving every sense of urgency and importance and priority to our elections in Wisconsin. And elections are becoming closer and closer. We have seen recounts. We have seen ballot bags that have gone missing and then looking for them. I mean, there has been some election intrigue in the state, and I think we need to make sure that we are protecting a voter's ballot and that we take it very, very seriously. And I don't believe the Republicans have made it the important issue that it needs to be, and they have continued to underfund it and to be dismissive of their own agency that they created after eliminating the Government Accountability Board.
State Senator Jennifer Schilling, a fine Dem, the Senate Minority Leader, a friend of ours. Jennifer, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Folks, we are the Devil's Advocates right here on Wisconsin's Resistance Radio Network. That's 1580 in Madison, 1510 right here in the greater Milwaukee Metro. We got more big guests today, Dom. We got Tony Evers. He's a Dem gubernatorial candidate. He is the current state superintendent of public instruction. Can't wait to ask him about gun safety in the schools. Come back with us. Join us on the phones. They're open to you toll free. 844-967-2789.
Having a great time. No, I'm going to stay for a while. How about that? Freedom.
Hey folks, sexy liberal Stephanie Miller here. Most new Wisconsin jobs are in Dane County, it's true. Some of my listeners are relocating to Madison, many already commute there. When asked where to turn for a trusted real estate team that understands Madison, I say the same thing. Solidarity Realty. They help you through the process and protect your consumer rights. They live their values, building community, promoting sustainability and diversity. Find them today at solidarityrealty.com and tell them Stephanie Miller sent you.
Hello, I'm State Senator LaTanya Johnson. Making sure Wisconsin residents continue to have equal and fair access to voting is very important to me. Here are some key things you should know. Wisconsin requires a photo ID, and chances are you already have what you need to vote. A Wisconsin DMV-issued driver's license. You can use this even if it's revoked or suspended. A Wisconsin DMV-issued identification card. A military ID issued by the U.S. Uniformed Services, or a U.S. passport book or card. You can use these items even if they're expired, as long as the expiration date is after the most recent general election held on November 8, 2016. For more information about registering to vote, please visit myvote.wi.gov or call the Wisconsin Election Commission Help Desk at 608-261-2028. We won't be taken for granted.
This message was brought to you by WRRD 1510 AM.
In the wake of a disaster, what one thing can you send that will help people the most? A blanket, a tent, a sandbag, a doctor. Actually, if you send a monetary donation, you send all these things. Even a small donation can make a big impact and can quickly become exactly what people affected by disaster need most.
In the wake of a hurricane, your monetary donation can make a huge difference to those in need. To donate, visit supporthurricanerelief.org. That's supporthurricanerelief.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Wisconsin's doing terribly. The roads are a disaster because they don't have any money to rebuild them. They're borrowing money like crazy. They projected a $1 billion surplus, and it turns out to be a deficit of $2.2 billion. The schools are a disaster. The hospitals and education is a disaster. And when I see Scott Walker with his little motorcycle and puts his helmet on, and he gets off and he makes a speech. But, he's always riding like, he gets off a bike like he's a big tough guy. Okay, or a little tough guy. Their lobbyists, their special interests, and their donors will start calling. They gave you $1 million to your campaign, and this one gave you $5 million, and this one, you have to do it. You know what he's going to say? Okay, I'll do it.
Mr. Trump, you're using the talking points of the Democrats, and as we all know, that
I'm using facts.
This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org, p4ppc.org.
Do you own a rental property, or would you like to partner with a rental investment team? Call the pros you can trust at CCL Management. Rental expertise second to none, a general contractor on staff to direct repairs and improvements, and real estate brokerage services tailored to the small investor. If you're ready to invest in rental property, or just need professionals to manage your real estate portfolio, call us, CCL Management, at 608-833-0009 or visit us on the web at cclmanagement.com.
Hey everybody, I'm Earl Ingram of News Talk 1510 WRRD, Wisconsin's Resistance Radio, and I am the Director of Advertising and Marketing. The pride of our independent stands runs deep in all that we do here at the station. The thing that I know for sure is that you can count on the quality and independent production of client advertising, mirroring the quality and independence of our fine programming here at News Talk 1510. To learn more, contact me at 414-335-0851 or via email at daryl@newstalk1510am.com.
The big and tall of political talk. Dom and Krut are the Devil's Advocates.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show live on Wisconsin's Resistance Radio Network. Phone lines 844-967-2789.
Dominic, I want to thank our most recent guest. She is the minority leader of the state senate here in the great state of Wisconsin. She's Jen Schilling. She's a friend of ours. Dom, we've referenced this story a couple times. Want to get back to it. Jason Stein, Russian Twitter trolls stoked racial tension in the wake of Sherman Park riots in Milwaukee before 2016 election. I guess I want people to understand, if they haven't read the reporting, if this caught some unaware, nationally, and from the body of the piece, nationally, these Russian-linked accounts presented themselves as grassroots opponents or supporters of movements like Black Lives Matter, both defending police and criticizing them. The police shooting and unrest in Milwaukee gave them another chance to do that in the run-up to the presidential election. These photos are not from Iraq. This is Obama's America. Hashtag Milwaukee reads one tweet from @10_GOP, an account named in Mueller's election interference indictment. The Russian Twitter account billed itself as Tennessee GOP, leading some to mistake it for the state's official Republican Party and helping the account amass more than 100,000 followers before it shut down, including Trump Jr., right, Don?
A team that included the University of Wisconsin professor Chris Wells found last month that at least 116 articles from U.S. media outlets included in tweets from Tennessee GOP and other Russian-linked accounts, with tweets usually cited as examples of supposedly ordinary Americans voicing their views. Wells said that the tweets found by the Journal Sentinel seemed similar and looks very consistent with what we've seen in our research so far.
Something else they did, Dom, they amplified the tweets of Sheriff David A. Clark Jr. Things like hashtag Black Lives Matter terrorist continue to post about killing National Guard, hashtag Milwaukee. That one was an @10_GOP post. We'll talk more about this. Come back with us. Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Tony Evers in the next hour. Your calls as well, 844-967-2789.
But there's been no collusion, no obstruction, and virtually everybody agrees to that.
Well, first of all, there is no police brutality in America. We ended that.
Hi, this is Brad Saug, owner of Zero Res Madison Carpet Cleaning. Zero Res is the best new technology in carpet cleaning. We have a patented process using empowered water, a high-tech process in which we force the water to act like soap. It doesn't want to stay in that state. It's jacked up and it's angry and it wants to hit the dirt and then it neutralizes. When we're done, all that's left in your carpet is just light moisture. In the end, you get the cleanest, greenest, healthiest carpet cleaning available. Call us at 848-9000. Zero Res. Spell it backward or forward. It's the right way to clean.
Only in the forest can you see this. And this. And this. But nothing beats the moment you see that.
Cool!
That's your child's eyes opening up to a world of possibilities.
I didn't know it could do that!
Because one trip to the forest can spark a world of difference.
There are some moments only the forest can inspire. Find yours at discovertheforest.org. Learn about forests near you and discover cool things to do when you go, like hiking, canoeing, fishing, or camping. Or create your own adventure with family and friends, and you might just see this. Your moment's out there. Find it at discovertheforest.org. That's discovertheforest.org.
Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Please tune in Saturday, March 24th from noon to 3 p.m. when Earl Ingram anchors special coverage of the 10th Annual Wisconsin Grassroots Festival from Mazomanie. People Organizing for Solutions. Speakers include Lisa Graves, John Nichols, Matt Rothschild, Congressman Mark Pocan, and Senator Tammy Baldwin. Tune in right here on Wisconsin's Resistance Radio Network, Saturday, March 24th, noon to 3.
You are listening to 1510 AM WRRD Waukesha, Milwaukee, and 1580 AM WTTN Columbus, Wisconsin's Resistance Radio Network.
Miami bridge collapse. Mueller gets into Trump's business. I'm Michael Toscano.
Our units responded to find 8 trapped vehicles under the bridge. At this time, we've transported 8 victims to hospitals.
Paul Estapian of Miami-Dade County Fire and Rescue on the scene of a deadly pedestrian bridge collapse at Florida International University near Miami. We have conflicting reports about fatalities, with officials only saying for sure that there are multiple victims. Linnell Collins saw the bridge, just days old, crash onto a city street, and he tried to help.
After I ran over there, I saw 2 trucks were actually completely crushed, and then there were a few in the back on the other side of the bridge that we couldn't get to, that some other people had to help.
Miami-Dade Police Chief Juan Perez is pleading with the public to stay away from the area so rescuers can do their jobs, which includes listening for signs of life in the rubble. Russia's special counsel Robert Mueller has gone there. The New York Times reporting he's looking into President Trump's business and connections to Russia. Jessica Schneider reporting the probe seems to be widening.
The Trump White House was expecting and even talking about the fact that this investigation might have been wrapped up by
holidays at the end of last year, hoping it might be wrapped up in the beginning months of this year. But as we're seeing with this New York Times reporting, saying that Robert Mueller's team has subpoenaed the Trump Organization, this investigation is still extremely wide-ranging.
Admiral Harry Harris, the top military commander in the Pacific, told the Senate Armed Services Committee today that the U.S. has not drawn up plans for a so-called bloody nose, a limited strike against North Korea. Admiral Harris said, if we go in, we go all in.
If we do anything along the kinetic region of the spectrum of conflict, then we have to be ready to do the whole thing. And we are ready to do the whole thing if ordered by the president.
On Wall Street today, the Dow closed up 116, the S&P and NASDAQ down. I'm Michael Toscano.
Steven.
Who said that?
Me, down here.
Ugh, what are you, a yellow booger?
I'm a banana slug, Steven.
What are you doing in my room?
I'm your sense of adventure. It's been a long time since we've had an adventure in the forest.
Mom took me to the forest last year.
I'm a slug, Steven. It took me a long time to get here.
You're right. I should get out.
Yeah, the forest is not that far away.
Hey, Mom!
Come to the forest where the more adventurous you lives. Check out discovertheforest.org for cool places nearby. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Dad, this is fun. I didn't think I'd like kayaking.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it, but I think it's time to head back in.
Okay. Can we come back?
Sure. Hey, be careful getting out of the boat.
It's a kayak, Dad.
I'm gonna return the kayak.
Can we walk home?
How about a taxi?
It's a short fare from your neighborhood to your naturehood. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a neighborhood park or green space near you. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the U.S. Forest Service.
Jury selection in Bill Cosby's upcoming retrial on sexual assault charges is set to begin at the end of the month, and this time jurors will hear more of Bill Cosby's accusers, thanks to a ruling this afternoon.
This is a big break for the Montgomery County District Attorney. Judge Stephen O'Neill ruled that they can call 5 other Cosby accusers to testify at the trial. In the first trial, the judge allowed only 1. The prosecutor was seeking to put 19 other women on the stand. In having those women tell their stories to the jury, the prosecution wants to establish a long-standing pattern of behavior. Cosby's defense argued that none should be allowed to testify, citing everything from statute of limitations to allegations that were never judged in a court of law. The judge said he weighed the probative value versus the risk of prejudicing the jury. I'm Steve Kastenbaum.
New abortion restrictions considered in the Iowa State Legislature as the House takes up a state Senate-passed bill banning abortions if a doctor hears a heartbeat. I'm Michael Toscano.
Every hiring manager knows that a company is only as good as the people it's made from. So where do you find the best people? That may surprise you.
Meet the grads of life. Young adults of unique determination and experience. An ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
This is talent worth knowing about.
Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
I gotta tell you, so when I first moved to Green Bay to play football in '92, I had never been to Wisconsin. But the funniest thing I thought, you could not buy hamburger patties without a dollop of butter on them.
Folks, just so you know, if you take a little bit of herb butter and put it in the middle of a patty and just kind of mold it around there, you get magic.
I have one of my arteries right now.
How much did you say you weighed?
I'm gaining weight with my thoughts right now.
You're 3 bills and some change already, brother.
Guns Butter Economics, 414 Wisconsin, weekdays 2 to 3 p.m. on Wisconsin's Resistance. For Wisconsin's Resistance Radio Network, I'm Stu Daniels with your headlines. On the day after students across the country protested against gun violence, Governor Walker has announced a new $100 million plan to improve school safety. Milwaukee County is suing several drug companies and distributors for their part in the opioid epidemic. Former Badger and Brookfield native Joe Thomas has announced his retirement from the NFL. Thomas was selected to the Pro Bowl in each of his first 10 seasons with the Cleveland Browns, but suffered a season-ending triceps injury about halfway through this past season. And the Bucks lost to the Magic last night, 126-117. Their next game is Saturday when the Atlanta Hawks come to town. Outside today, sunshine and mostly clear tonight. Lows tonight in the low 20s. Mostly sunny tomorrow and Saturday. Highs tomorrow in the mid-30s. Highs on Saturday in the low 40s. For Wisconsin's Resistance Radio Network, I'm Stu Daniels.
The following program is a presentation of DC Communications, LLC. Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. and due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening.
3, 2, 1.
Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome back. Hour 2 of the Devil's Advocates radio show. I think it's a Thursday, Dominic.
I think so, Crudy.
Thursday is almost like a Friday.
Pretty close.
Weekend's nearly here. Dominic, wanted to get back to this topic. Russian Trump Twitter trolls. I threw in the Trump part, but they were Trump supportive. Russian Twitter trolls stoked racial tension in wake of Sherman Park riots in Milwaukee before the 2016 election. And as I mentioned, Dom, there is a connection even to the Mueller Russia investigation. One of these Twitter accounts, specifically at 10_GOP, like at Tennessee GOP, fooled about 100,000 people into believing that they were the official Twitter handle for
the Republican Party of Tennessee.
Apparently, Dom. Mueller's indictment alleges that at 10_GOP was one of hundreds of fake accounts created by a shadowy Russian group known as the Internet Research Agency and based in a St. Petersburg office building. They appear to have monitored social media and American outlets like, wait for it, Dom, Fox News, for opportunities like the Sherman Park incidents. Unrest broke out in parts of Milwaukee neighborhoods following the August 13th, 2016 shooting of Seville Smith, 23, by former Milwaukee police officer Dominic Hegan Brown. In the chaos, at least 4 officers were injured and 2 teenagers were wounded by gunfire. 8 buildings were set on fire and 6 police squad cars were damaged, with total cost estimated at $5.8 million, or nearly as much as it cost to clean up the Capitol building after the uprising, Dom. You go
All right, I'll jump in
My
here,
bad.
Crudy. This is from the reporting of Jason Stein and Kevin Crow in the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. I'll continue. By the morning of the next day, on August 14th, tweets from Tennessee GOP and other Russian-affiliated accounts were comparing Black Lives Matter to, quote, radical Islamic terrorists, unquote, and blaming Milwaukee's Democratic leaders for its crime rates.
Now, is this the Russian Twitter accounts or right-wing talk radio here in the city?
It's really hard to distinguish, isn't it, Mike? One of the posts got more than 1,000 retweets, and several got hundreds of retweets, according to the NBC data. Will Obama speak out on hashtag Milwaukee? The account of Jen_Abrams tweeted that Sunday morning. About an hour later, another troll account tweeted, hashtag Black Lives Matter rioters target white people for beatdown. Hashtag Black Lives Matter terrorists continue to post about killing National Guard. Hashtag Milwaukee. Another Tennessee GOP post reads, Governor Scott Walker activated the National Guard but never deployed the troops to Sherman Park, so no such confrontation could have occurred. In total, that Sunday, a handful of troll accounts tweeted using hashtag Milwaukee 32 times, garnering 5,274 retweets and 4,310 favorites. Accounts like @RightNPR also quoted then Sheriff Clark, who frequently criticized the Black Lives Matter movement and campaigned on behalf of Trump. In all, Russian trolls retweeted Sheriff Clark's tweets or referenced him hundreds of times on a variety of subjects. Here's one, Crudy. Sheriff Clark, Obama's set this whole country on fire with his race politics. Hashtag Milwaukee, reads one post from Tennessee GOP that received more than 700 retweets. Tennessee GOP tweeted this same phrase with different hashtags 4 other times in the late summer and fall of 2016, getting hundreds of retweets each time. The tweet's text appears to have been taken from a post by Fox News on July 10, 2016, that quoted Clark. Clark could not be reached for comment. There's no indication from the data that Clark was aware of what the Russians were doing.
Dom, I'm going to slow you down right there for a minute. Clark made a trip to Russia, didn't he?
He, like the Russian NRA guy, right?
Yeah, Clark went to a Russian arms manufacturing plant in, Moscow? Or was it St. Petersburg? I forget.
There's so many Russian cities to visit.
It was the same weekend, though, that Michael Flynn was dinnering with Putin. And let's not forget the Russian NRA. These people, these very same characters that are tied up in that story, Dom, they also, I saw, photographed with Governor Scott Walker right here in the great state of Wisconsin. He was also tied up with the Russian NRA or the equivalent thereof. But let's not forget, there is no Second Amendment in Russia. Right. Putin's kind of anti-gun. So one must wonder, how does this Russian NRA flourish when sure, he's elected, quote unquote, but when Putin doesn't want you to exist, how do you exist? Well, you have Putin's condonement or you do not exist, I suspect, Dom. So Sheriff David A. Clark mixed up with that batch of Russians. Scott Walker, he'd take pictures with anyone signing checks over to him, so one must suspect they gave money to Walker, some sort of encouragement. And we had Eric Holder in this studio before, and as I mentioned, I had a little off-air conversation with him, and I pointed out Paul Singer, a big Scott Walker donor, was the guy that funded the Russian Trump dossier, the PP tape. And Singer gave $250,000 to Walker during the recall. Scott Walker got out early in the presidential. He was a candidate in waiting, but he was high in the polls, tops of the polls for months. And Paul Singer, his prior massive donor, didn't tell Scott Walker what sort of negative opposition research he was doing on Donald Trump?
The guy he was supporting. I mean, this guy had Scott Walker's back, right? Scott Walker was his choice candidate, and he's funding Oppo research on his favorite guy's main opposition,
Donald Trump. And September of that year, when Scott Walker, bowed out of the race disgracefully, then and only then did Singer move his support from Scott Walker over to little Marco Rubio. But you mean to tell me the whole time that Fusion GPS was doing this research, I'm compilating this and perhaps giving updates to the man paying the freight, Paul Singer, Scott Walker donor, you mean to tell me that entire time Paul Singer was not sharing any of the contents of that dossier with Scott Walker?
With his guy.
And Scott Walker, uniquely only candidate in the field that felt it necessary to come out and defend himself, deflect from the fact it was his prior donor? I mean, I think we're the only ones making this connection publicly, but everybody should, because Scott Walker protests too much. I think his denials are every indication we need that he absolutely knew about the Russian dossier and the fact that perhaps Trump was compromised. Hell, Scott Walker is compromised. He had a legal defense fund, almost $500,000. That man is compromised. He doesn't care what sort of company he keeps.
Hell no.
What it takes, the ends justify the means. Just look at right here in the great state of Wisconsin. I mean, hell, he pissed away $250 million in casino money and put the taxpayers on the hook because 400 Christian conservatives in Iowa wrote him a letter.
I don't know if it was even 400.
You don't think he would have done the willing bidding of the Russian branch of the NRA?
The guy
or anybody else writing a check from Russia with love?
Alexander Torshin is his name, Curdy. That's the Russian
right to bear, B-E-A-R, arms guy?
But we'll get to that. There's a Mother Jones article, and we posted that last week, Curdy, and that's where you saw the picture of Governor Scott Walker and Alexander Torshin and Torshin's protege, Maria Butina. But let's kind of wrap up this today's Journal Sentinel article regarding
about the Russian
trolls
Trump
and Sherman
supportive
Park.
Twitter trolls.
On August 16th of 2016, Trump gave a speech in West Bend. Crudy, we were there, in which he spoke of the Sherman Park unrest and sought to turn back black voters away from Democrats. That same evening, a Russian account...
What's the date? August 16, 2016.
16,
I'm
yep.
looking at the media pass. It's glued on the table
It's
right there.
We were there. It was a hot one, if I recall. That same evening, a Russian account imitating an American news outlet at Kansas Daily News tweeted a quote from Trump's speech. Trump says Clinton Democrats have failed and betrayed African Americans after Milwaukee riots. 3 days later, the Tennessee GOP praised Trump's Wisconsin visit. Trump went to hashtag Milwaukee. He went to hashtag Louisiana. He is where it hurts. He is doing Obama's job. This is leadership, the Russian trolls tweeted, Crudy. For community organizer Camille Mays, the Russian tweets about her Milwaukee neighborhood were just one more source of commentary she sees as inaccurate and unfair. Mays, who works with the Sherman Park Community Association, pointed to efforts since the unrest to promote economic development and add community gardens and murals to make the neighborhoods more beautiful. I wish anybody who looked at that could see what we've done since, Mays said of the Russian tweets. The Russian accounts tweeted dozens of times in support of Paul Ryan's GOP primary opponent. Who is it, Crudy? Paul Nealon, who has been called a
Your
racist,
buddy Paul Nealon?
who has been called a racist by some fellow Republicans. The trolls regularly disparage Ryan and spread some fake news about the speaker.
Well, let's not forget, Donald Trump did not support the speaker until very late. I believe we were in Green Bay, Wisconsin, at a Trump rally, and he finally pulled out the envelope from his pocket, kind of like the Academy Awards. You know, and you were thinking, it can't be La La Land. But the question was he going to endorse Paul Nealon? Was he going to rock Speaker Paul Ryan's world? And he chose not to do so. He pulled out the envelope. I believe Susan Collins got a back of the envelope endorsement. John McCain got a back of the envelope endorsement. You know, there's never been a lot of love lost between those two. And Speaker Paul Ryan got his endorsement that night as well. And ever since then, Speaker Paul Ryan and Trump, they've been tight. Like they got merged agendas down. You know, you scratch my back and I'll scratch yours. He learned that from the Russians, I hear.
This is the Trump administration. This is the GOP. They are all culpable for this. I think, Crudy, we'll come back. We'll have a couple of minutes before gubernatorial candidate Tony Evers joins us at the bottom of the hour. I want to talk briefly about this Mother Jones article that maybe perhaps ties all these players together. Scott Walker, Sheriff Clark, Alexander Torshin, the NRA, the troll bots, Trump. What's going on around here, man?
I just pulled up my pictures from August 16, 2016 Trump rally. And that's where I got the bottle of Trump water. I still got the empty.
Yeah.
The water, not so good.
Something someday.
Oh, the Trump water? Only the freshest, straight from Lake Erie.
Make America great again.
Folks, we are the Devil's Advocates. That's a Trump water bottle. All you watching on the streams, come back with us. Join us on the phones. 844-967-2789. Dem gubernatorial candidate Tony Evers will be along soon as well.
The biggest fear that I and I think a lot of our supporters have is the outside money.
And they literally and figuratively get hooked. And once they get hooked, there's no going back.
The irony is a little rich here these days.
Это shoe advocatов diavolo.
We are the People for People, People Corporation. We are a registered 501c3, totally legit. What do? We take your uncapped, dark money, tax-deductible donations, private or corporate, always anonymous, and we turn it into free speech. You know, educate Wisconsin through advertising, which may or may not be in coordination with the candidate. Isn't that illegal? It should be, but it's not under Wisconsin law, thanks Governor Scott Walker. Politicians in Wisconsin are beholden to the millionaire and billionaire sugar daddy and sugar mamas that finance their campaigns. Time to make them beholden to we the people for People Corporation. Give your tax-deductible donation to the real patriots, the People for People Corporation, P4PPC.org, P4PPC.org.
Hey folks, sexy liberal Stephanie Miller here.
Most new Wisconsin jobs are in Dane County, it's true. Some of my listeners are relocating to Madison. Many already commute there. When asked where to turn for a trusted real estate team that understands Madison, I say the same thing. Solidarity Realty. They help you through the process and protect your consumer rights. They live their values, building community, promoting sustainability and diversity. Find them today at solidarityrealty.com and tell them Stephanie Miller sent you.
Juice, Mom. Juice, juice, juice.
Mommy, why are we going to the store?
Mom, I want juice.
Mom.
Juice, juice, juice.
Mom.
Your child will have different needs at different stages of life, and that includes the car seat. See, car crashes are a leading killer of children ages 1 to 13. Protect your child's future at every stage of life. Go to safercar.gov/the right seat.
A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Have you outgrown your house? Are you sick of apartment living? Not ready to buy but know you need to move? Hi folks, this is Tom Hartman for CCL Management in Middleton. You should consider moving up to one of the finer rental homes CCL Management represents. Unique houses and condos, always clean, most are pet friendly. Visit cclmanagement.com today to find your new home. CCL Management, Dane County's premier leasing and property management company.
Call CCL Management at 833-0009. That's 833-0009 or visit cclmanagement.com today.
Have a drink at Regano's Roman Coin. This neighborhood corner tavern is as classic as the street it occupies. Family owned and operated since 1966, Regano's Roman Coin is located in the former Pabst Tide House on historic Brady Street, serving an array of craft beers with a focus on Wisconsin breweries. Also, weekly drink specials, trivia on Wednesdays, seasonal sporting events, parties hosted for all occasions, and pet friendly. Open 11 a.m. Tuesday through Friday, 10 a.m. Saturday and Sunday, closed on Monday. Regano's Roman Coin, Milwaukee's pet friendly, cash only order and classic corner tavern.
We are live outside the home of Joe and Rosie Goddard, where a pretty big tickle fight broke out just minutes ago. Sources say their father instigated the laughter. Let's go inside for a comment. Apparently, they have no comment. Dads, let this be a reminder that it only takes a moment to make a moment. Call 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
The Devil's Advocates.
U.S. Senator Ron Johnson, our friend, live via phone. What about simply raising the age of weapons purchases to 21 years of age?
We're sending 18, 19, 20, 21-year-olds over to Afghanistan, and they're dying. They ought to be able to vote. They ought to be able to have a beer, and they ought to be able to buy a gun to hunt with as well.
Are you suggesting we lower the drinking age?
No. Can't they do that now? What is the age nowadays?
It's 21, sir.
We drink when we toast. We toast when we drink.
Yikes.
The Devil's Advocates, because it's always 420 somewhere.
And we are back from the 420 break. Thank you so much for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show live on Wisconsin's Resistance Radio Network, streaming as well on YouTube and Facebook, on Twitter at Devil Radio, and on the phones 844-967-2789.
Dom, we're expecting a fine guest. He's Dem gubernatorial candidate Tony Evers. Joins us about 4:30 today. But Dom, let's talk about this Russian NRA Scott Walker connection. Hell, they were at his presidential campaign launch.
What? Okay, so quick background. This is from Mother Jones from last week, entitled Very Strange Case of Two Russian Gun Lovers, the NRA and Donald Trump. But of course,
and Scott Walker.
Yeah, Scott Walker, and I think even Sheriff David Clark makes an appearance. So, who is Alexander Torshin, according to Mother Jones? He's a former Republican senator and longtime ally of Vladimir Putin, been accused of having ties to the Russian mob, an allegation he denies. Butina, this is his younger female protege.
Now, is Torshin a Republican or a Russian senator? I wasn't clear.
Fair enough. I believe he was a Russian senator. Butina, this is Torshin's protege, Maria Butina. She graduated a student from American University in Washington, D.C. in 2016, and founded a Russian guns right group and worked as Torshin's assistant, repeatedly bragged about her connections to the Trump campaign. In another spot in Mother Jones, of particular interest are their overtures to Trump. Butina, Torshin's protege, asked Trump straight up at a campaign event about the future of damaging sanctions against Russia. Torshin twice tried to meet with Trump, according to the New York Times, and did meet with Donald Trump at an NRA event. Meanwhile, the House Intelligence Committee has heard sworn testimony about possible Kremlin infiltration of the NRA and other conservative groups. And the FBI is reportedly investigating whether Torshin illegally funneled money to the Trump campaign through the NRA, which backed Trump with a record $30 million.
But before Trump, there was Scott Walker as the Republican presidential frontrunner, Dom, and he didn't even launch his campaign till, July 13th, 2015. And there was the protege, Butina, snapping pictures and putting up social media.
More than once, Crudy.
In Waukesha, Wisconsin, from Scott Walker's presidential campaign launch. And not only did she take the pictures of Walker stalking the stage, they also took, photographs, her, Torshin, and Walker. They're there, Tom. I've seen them.
They are there. Before that, though, Crudy, April of 2015, the April before Governor Walker announces, Butina posts about 200 pictures from Nashville, including one with Republican Governor Scott Walker, as you mentioned, who greeted her in Russian. Yeah.
Did you know Walker knew Russian?
I did not. I'm
asking our conservative listeners, did you know Walker not only panders to Bears fans, but also to Russians?
She notes that he's, quote, one of the possible future nominees for the post of U.S. president and ponders the beginning of a new dialogue between Russia and the U.S. Donald Trump also attends, telling the crowd, I promise you one thing, if I run for president and if I win, the Second Amendment will be totally protected, that I can tell you. Torshin, also present, later tells Bloomberg he had a jovial exchange with the future president. And then, of course, Walker goes out and announces in July 13th of 2015, Torshin's protege, the Russian NRA, Butina, she posts photos from the Wisconsin event where Governor Walker announces his presidential candidacy.
Well, that was in Waukesha, Wisconsin. That's where WRD 1510 AM originates from.
I didn't know the Russians were so close, and I didn't know Governor Scott Walker spoke Russian.
We are Russian resistant. We are certainly Scott Walker resistant around here. We are Wisconsin's Resistance Radio Network. 1510 AM, 1580 AM. Come back with us. Tony Evers, he's a Dem gubernatorial candidate. We'll talk about Scott Walker, NRA, loving Walker's gun safety plan. We'll see if Tony agrees with it.
But there's been no collusion, no obstruction, and virtually everybody agrees to that.
I love being governor.
Music is a bridge between the material and the spiritual. My name is Harvey Lauer, and I'm 82. As a blind person, you have to be aware that nobody can tell you what you can or can't do. You really have to try things. My folks got me a little radio in 1940, and that was the best Christmas present I ever got. When I was 11 years old is when I started to play music, play the piano, and then the accordion, and then the cello. My wife, who was also blind, was a good cook. When she died, that's when I started Meals on Wheels. America, let's do lunch.
1 in 6 seniors faces the threat of hunger, and millions more live in isolation. Drop off a hot meal and say a quick hello. Volunteer for Meals on Wheels by donating your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org. This message brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and the Ad Council.
You are listening to Wisconsin's Resistance Radio Network. Believe me, there is no collusion. Believe me.
Businesses today thrive and survive with technology. At Five Nines, we provide businesses with the IT tools they need to stay relevant. We offer enterprise-level solutions at competitive prices. I'm Todd Stryker, President and CEO of Five Nines. Let us manage your IT so you can focus on more important things, like running your business. Check us out at 5nines.com. That's the number 5, NINES.com.
My name is Adam Holmes, and I'm proud to be union.
Adam, you're Director of Training for Painters District Council 7. What do you do?
I'm making sure that we're investing in our members. We're providing the safest and best trained painters, glazers, drywall finishers, and trade show workers in the industry, and we also do that at no cost to the taxpayers.
Why hire unions?
Because it costs less to be safe. We keep the contractor on the right side of OSHA and help keep the workmen's comp rates affordable. Join us, Painters and Allied Trades, District Council 7.
Steven.
Who said that?
Me, down here.
Ugh, what are you, a yellow booger?
I'm a banana slug, Steven.
What are you doing in my room?
I'm your sense of adventure. It's been a long time since we've had an adventure in the forest.
Mom took me to the forest last year.
I'm a slug, Steven. It took me a long time to get here.
You're right. I should get out.
Yeah, the forest is not that far away.
Hey, Mom!
Come to the forest where the more adventurous you lives. Check out discovertheforest.org for cool places nearby. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Tune in to The Resistance, Wisconsin's Resistance Radio. Start your weekday off with the Earl Ingram Show from 7 to 9 a.m. Next is the Stephanie Miller Show from 9 to 11. Then from 11 to 2, it's the Tom Hartman Program. At 2 o'clock, it's 414 Wisconsin. Then from 3 to 6, it's the Devil's Advocates. Mandatory listening. Wisconsin's Resistance Radio. For Wisconsin's Resistance Radio Network, I'm Stu Daniels with your headlines. Wisconsin Republican Representative Michael Schraw from Oshkosh, who is a lead author on the bill to close Lincoln Hills, says Republican Senate Majority Leader Scott Fitzgerald is playing games and is attempting to kill the bill. Former Badger and Brookfield native Joe Thomas has announced his retirement from the NFL. Thomas was selected to the Pro Bowl in each of his first 10 seasons with the Cleveland Browns, but suffered a season-ending triceps injury about halfway through this past season. And the Bucks lost to the Magic last night, 126-117. Their next game is Saturday when the Atlanta Hawks come to town. Outside today, sunshine and mostly clear tonight. Lows tonight in the low 20s, mostly sunny tomorrow and Saturday. Highs tomorrow in the mid-30s, highs on Saturday in the low 40s. For Wisconsin's Resistance Radio Network, I'm Stu Daniels.
The Devil's Advocates. Political commentary from the back of the class.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Dominic, we're welcoming a return guest. He's a friend of ours. He's Tony Evers, State Superintendent of Public Instruction, and of course, also a Dem gubernatorial candidate. Tony, welcome back to the Devil's Advocates.
Yep, I'm back.
Thank you, sir.
Tony, let's jump right into the headline, sir. Governor Scott Walker offering a $100 million plan to boost school safety in Wisconsin. Tony, we were on the Capitol Square yesterday, thousands of young people seeking action. I didn't see a single sign that said create a new department and jam it in over at the Department of Justice. This doesn't seem like the kind of action the kids were advocating for, Tony.
Yeah, actually, I was there too, and I don't think I saw every sign, but there were no signs like that. That's part of the problem here. What we advocated for in the educational world was a return to having a revenue limit exemption where school districts can figure out how to spend that money. I don't think we need the Department of Justice to do that.
Well, Tony, the Attorney General of the state of Wisconsin, Republican Brad Schilling, he's something of a darling of the NRA. And prior, he has advocated for arming teachers. We know Scott Walker has held a similar position as recently as after Sandy Hook in 2012. Tony, is there a possibility if this is handed off to Brad Schilling's DOJ that we're going to end up with teachers with guns in classrooms in Wisconsin, sir?
Well, kind of over my dead body kind of thing. No, yes, that's very frightening. Clearly, right after the events in Florida, Brad Schilling came out almost immediately talking about that he'd be glad to support the training of teachers in the classroom or to carry guns in the classroom or have guns in the classroom, which is just a ridiculous notion. The chiefs of police group has condemned that idea. So I'm not sure. I'd rather side with them the Attorney General, that's for sure. And, I've talked to teachers all across the state. I mean, there's, to my knowledge, there isn't any groundswell support for that notion, and I think it's anything but something that the classic teachers want to do. For God's sakes, they got enough things to do. And it's just ridiculous to think that somehow we can make sharpshooters out of teachers, and somehow it's going to be the Wild West and everybody's going to survive. I don't get that idea. So yes, it's a concern. It seems to be a bit odd that money from for this important thing should be sent over there, and it seems ridiculous.
Tony, I realize candidates that governors don't have to recuse themselves, but if there was an issue that a governor should recuse, it's this issue. Scott Walker, a recipient of $3.5 million in aid from the NRA. Tony, I don't think he's got any credibility on this issue because, of course, whatever proposition he puts forth is really just the platform of the NRA, sir.
Yeah, for sure. There's certainly more money on that side than on our side, that's for sure. But yes, it is something that concerns me, that we're just not listening to the young people. I mean, I'm so proud of the high schoolers and middle schoolers, elementary kids all across the state of Wisconsin and our country kind of taking a lead, and we just kind of dismiss them with, as if they don't exist. Clearly, there's, room for discussion and dialogue around many of the issues, especially gun control. But the fact of the matter is, it just seems ridiculous to have a one-time orgy of spending $100 million, and it's going to be a one-time deal. And school districts need an ongoing stream of revenue for this.
Folks, you're listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show on Wisconsin's Resistance Radio Network. Tony Evers, he's the state superintendent of public instruction, also a Democratic gubernatorial candidate. He joins us on the phone. Tony, Crudy and I were at the Capitol yesterday, too, and I did get chills a couple of times. These kids are fired up. They're not going to take any BS, and I do not believe for a minute that they're going to look at this proposal, because they can look at this proposal from Governor Walker and think that this is going to solve any problems whatsoever that they're concerned about. It might be some political cover for the governor, at least he thinks it is, but I don't believe that the kids are going to buy it. Certainly you have impact on schools as the superintendent, but what's your thoughts on gun safety, gun control, however you want to describe it, the availability of these weapons as it exists now? If you're to become governor, what would you propose regarding gun safety?
Well, that's a great question, because certainly hunting is a major issue in the state of Wisconsin. People love to hunt. Guns are part of the culture of our state, and but we have to recognize that there are some things that have universal agreement on. That maybe not for the NRA, but the last Marquette University poll had universal background checks is something that's that people are willing to accept. Actually, I was with a group of union leaders not too long ago, and we were just talking about the exact same thing. And I asked them, I said, so universal background checks, are that something that would concern you? And they said no. And it was reflective of the Marquette University poll. So yes, there's always going to be some push and pull on this, but I do believe that the kids of our state deserve to have an honest discussion about this. How about some public hearings? Clearly, the Republicans are aiming for something that would go on without public hearings, and I think we should have public hearings on these proposals.
Any thoughts on an assault weapons ban or high-capacity magazines?
Well, do I think that people need a military-style weapon in order to shoot deer? No, but I also understand that unless you don't want any deer left, but I do understand that there are people that are sportsmen who enjoy that they actually compete in this area. So I'm not prepared to say we have to get rid of everything, but I think there's common sense things that we can do, and certainly universal background checks as a state is an absolute great starting place with 81% of the people are okay with that. The important thing around Governor Walker's proposal, and it's more about hardening the school rather than dealing with the issues of mental health issues with kids and so on. That's my proposal that I put forth to the legislature. The governor has more money for health or for mental health issues, which is absolutely great. The other important thing is we need to have schools to be able on a regular basis, if they so choose, to vote on this as an annual year or annually, to have a revenue limit exemption, actually raise taxes for this purpose. We've done this for several years, and then the Republicans took that away. Our school board members can figure this out, and we don't need Brad Schimmel's department to do that.
Tony, I know we've talked Foxconn before, but each and every time I see a new headline, it gets worse and worse, especially environmentally. It seems like the Wisconsin DNR under Governor Scott Walker is trying to give this foreign corporation a pass. They're seeking some sort of exemption to EPA regulations. Tony, they're putting a big straw in Lake Michigan. I want to get your opinion on Foxconn. I'm going to ask you again, sir, can we stop this? And if we cannot stop it, can we at least hold a little faster on some of the environmental protections here in our great state?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, a straw is I wouldn't call it a straw. It's 7 million gallons a day.
It's a big straw.
That's a very big straw, and it's 7 days a week. And that water will be passing through that plant and picking up heavy metals, and then that goes to the receipt sewage treatment plant, and hopefully that those metals will be removed before it gets back into Lake Michigan. That's a problem. I mean, the bottom line here, yes, I'm not convinced that short of legal injunctions, but that we're going to change the state law. But what I think we can do, I know we can. We can renegotiate some of this off the law stuff and talk about environmental regulations. And frankly, if indeed there's going to be this huge number of production jobs available, there's lots of people that would need them. I grant you that. But why the hell aren't we, for $4.5 million, or $4.5 billion, why aren't we compelling Foxconn to provide public transportation to the plant, from Milwaukee, from the city, Kenosha? There's a lot of people that would like those jobs that don't have transportation. So let's give them transportation. For $4.5 billion, I think that's reasonable. Why aren't we compelling them to put solar panels on the huge plant that would provide electricity to 33,000 homes? Why aren't we compelling them to provide a living wage and great benefits for the workers there? There are things that we could, for $4.5 billion, that people in Wisconsin should expect this company to be the best corporate partner in the state of Wisconsin. I don't think we've come anywhere close to that, especially with environmental regulations.
Tony, I argued with a Republican friend yesterday. I said the state of Wisconsin is literally giving cash or the equivalent thereof to Foxconn. Here's my question, Tony. That is effectively on top of a 0% effective tax rate for manufacturers in the state of Wisconsin. Let's assume we don't want to get sued. We don't want to go to litigation with a foreign corporation. We honor the terms of this cash giveaway to Foxconn. Can we, at minimum, sir, roll back the manufacturing and agribusiness tax credit so that if they are profitable, and one suspects they will be, that we, as the state of Wisconsin, can actually redeem some taxes like the rest of us pay, sir?
Right, exactly. That's a great point. Yes, the manufacturing tax credit will essentially cause us as a state it's going to be a direct cash distribution to Foxconn. Yes, we do need to roll that back so that they actually do pay taxes on their profits. Now, that's assuming a whole hell of a lot, frankly. You know and your listeners know that this company does not have a great track record necessarily in other states. And so we're holding our breath. Honestly, Governor Walker has put us in a position of if they succeed, we're going to be paying them $400 million every couple of years for 25 years, and we don't have that kind of money. I mean, for gosh sakes, the governor's giving every parent in the state $100 a check for each one of their kids to buy school supplies. That's $100 million right there. So I don't know where we're going to get the money to pay Fox that we're obligated to pay for Foxconn. That's a concern. I mean, what happens to the University of Wisconsin system, the public education system, health? There will be no money available except for Foxconn money that paid to them.
Tony, I always think of spring. I think of allergies. It sounds like you're suffering from a few today. And I also think of it's pothole season, or perhaps as we call them here, Scott-hole season. Tony, let me ask you, we've got a roads problem. How are we going to solve that if you're the next governor? What's the solution, sir?
Well, yes, Governor Pothole has left us in a difficult situation here. We're 49th in the country as far as infrastructure. Of course, that includes some other things, but we're way down as far as our roads go. So yes, we're going to have to do something besides pass it on to the next generation. We've done that too many times. Just borrow. We're going to have to pay for it, and we need to pay for it. Now, there's all sorts of options out there, including the gas tax. But I'm confident this is something that could have bipartisan support right from the get-go. There are Republicans that understand that we can't be continuing to borrow that money for our roads. It's just not right. There are places up north, folks, that are removing the asphalt from their roads, their county roads, and going back to gravel because they can't afford it. That's not the future that I think Wisconsin needs.
Well, at least Foxconn will get fresh new roads, Tony. Tony Evers, State Superintendent of Public Instruction, a Democratic gubernatorial candidate, a friend of ours. Tony, thank you so much for joining us here on the Devil's Advocates today.
Thank you. Have a great day, guys.
Thank you. You too, Tony.
Folks, we are the Devil's Advocates. Phone lines always open. Toll free to you, 844-967-2789. Sound a little stuffy. I think he's got the spring allergies. I've been waking up every morning blowing my nose. Something's in the air.
Summer's coming, man. I love this.
I think perhaps both Tony Evers and I are allergic to bad governance.
It's the BS you smell.
It might be. Come back with us. No BS here. Just facts. Not even old facts, just facts. Come back. More Devil's Advocates, Wisconsin's Resistance Radio Network.
I set out running, but I took my time. A friend of the devil is a friend of mine. I get home before daylight, just might get some sleep tonight.
They can go suck lemons.
Wanker. I was on Zero Res Madison's Facebook page the other day, and they have almost 2,000 testimonials from local customers. Apparently, I'm not the only one stoked on how cool this company is. A green technology that actually works better and doesn't cost more. It's a no-brainer. I'm in. We are starting our own Devil's Advocates revolution to free your carpets from harsh chemicals and soaps. Call Zero Res today and ask for the Diamond Crude Special 608-848-9000 or schedule online at ZeroResMadison.com. Zero Res, spell it forward or backward. It's the right way to clean.
Excuse me, I know you have a 9 o'clock, so I'll keep this short. I'm the business suit in the back of your closet. You wore me nearly every day before your office went, quote, casual. I used to be the CEO of your closet. Now I'm just that one intern no one ever talks to. I always thought you'd circle back with me, get granular, keep me in the pipeline. But nada, nothing. Don't you remember the McKittrick presentation? You spilled coffee on me, and I still looked amazing during the breakout talkback Q&A. So, I think it's time for me to move on. I've got a great resume, and I absolutely crush it in interviews, okay? Let's make this a clean break. Shift the paradigm. The only thing I ask is that you think outside the box here and do this. Take me to Goodwill, where I can really make a difference.
Your donations to Goodwill create new jobs, training programs, and education assistance for people in your community. To find your nearest donation center, go to goodwill.org. Donate stuff. Create jobs. A message from Goodwill and the Ad Council.
Listen, as a hiring manager, I've got to tell you, the best job candidate isn't always the typical candidate. Sometimes they're a grad of life.
Meet the grads of life. Young adults of unique determination and experience, an ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
Sometimes the best candidates aren't the ones you're used to.
Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
I'm afraid right now for the future of my children's generation and those to come.
In this age of mass school shootings, Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker offers the same bold agenda of the National Rifle Association.
Make sure you remember in your thoughts and more importantly in your prayers.
While Walker offers platitudes, he blocks meaningful gun safety legislation.
It's really an honor to work with the NRA, not only in my state, but across the country. And I'm proud of my A+ ranking as a governor.
Walker weakened the gun laws in Wisconsin, and then he got $3.5 million worth of NRA support.
There have been men and women of courage who've been willing to stand up and think more about the future of their children and their grandchildren than they thought about their own futures.
Scott Walker, you are not one of them. This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org, p4ppc.org.
Hey folks, sexy liberal Stephanie Miller here. Most new Wisconsin jobs are in Dane County, it's true. Some of my listeners are relocating to Madison. Many already commute there. When asked where to turn for a trusted real estate team that understands Madison, I say the same thing. Solidarity Realty. They help you through the process and protect your consumer rights. They live their values, building community, promoting sustainability and diversity. Find them today at solidarityrealty.com and tell them Stephanie Miller sent you.
That guy is a scary son of a gun, and I hope people start paying attention and get him the heck out of there, because he's like a big fascist general that's controlling our state, and then our attorney general. Wow, that guy ought to be locked up himself. I mean, he makes the sheriff of Milwaukee look kind of saintly.
The Devil's Advocates, weekday afternoons on 1510 a.m. Wisconsin's Resistance Radio.
The big and tall of political talk. Dom and Krutz are the Devil's Advocates.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show live on Wisconsin's Resistance Radio Network, streaming on Facebook and YouTube. We're on Twitter at Devil Radio. Phone lines open now through the end of the show, 844-967-2789.
Are you confident? Are you sure, Dominic?
Why are we here, Chris?
Are you for surezies?
For surezies.
Want to thank our most recent guest for surezies. He is Tony Evers, State Superintendent of Public Instruction, and also a Dem gubernatorial candidate. I would call him currently the front runner, Dom, although it's quite early in this race. There's a candidate, though, and we have quite a bit of affection for this candidate. She's Kathleen Feinhout. She's one of our favorites. We love her wonkish nature. We love the work she does. She has been a friend of this show for a number of years. But our journalist friend, Bruce Murphy, over at the online daily urbanmilwaukee.com, raises an interesting headline: abortion issue dogs Feinhout in governor race. Now, Kelda Royce was on the show not so long ago when she dropped that new video, and that thing's gotten a lot of traction. The video where she...
The breastfeeding video?
Yeah, the breastfeeding video. And not because there's any breasts, for those that haven't seen it. Very discreet, but it was a conscious choice that she made to breastfeed her child in this video. And Kelda Royce, back in January, when she semi-officially announced her candidacy, declared that she was the only pro-choice woman in the race. And I asked her, she said, perhaps my words poorly chosen, but I think they were purposeful, and I think she knows that Kathleen Feinhout, the other female in this gubernatorial race, has a little bit of an issue on this topic, and I'm going to pick up Bruce Murphy's piece. Once upon a time, there were as many as 100 anti-abortion Democrats in the House of Representatives. That was as recently as the 1990s, according to a Hill story recently noted. But today there are a handful of such Democrats in the House, and one of them, Dan Lipinski of Illinois, faces a tough primary challenge from Marie Newman, a veteran Democratic activist who is contrasting her pro-choice views to Lipinski's. As Vice News reports, Vice News, Dom, you watch that?
No.
It's good stuff, man. HBO, Vice News. Watch it if you are able. Not a single anti-abortion Democratic candidate is running competitively in the 91 districts the party hopes to flip from red to blue this year, according to the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, all of which raises questions about the gubernatorial candidacy of Kathleen Vinehout, the Democratic state senator from rural Oma. She has a prior history as a pro-life activist that was noted in a recent story by the Cap Times in Madison. Vinehout was actually a board member of Democrats for Life before her run for office in the race for state senator in 2006. And she told the National Catholic Reporter she was worried those views could hurt her chances. Here's a quote. "I've been told that if I run as a pro-life Democrat, that I won't get any union money, Sierra Club money, or environmental money," she said. Vinehout told the publication she planned to soft-pedal her stance when she runs for office and to avoid the pro-life Democrat label. The strategy apparently worked. In 2006 campaign, she earned the endorsement of Planned Parenthood based on Vinehout's 100% pro-choice candidate questionnaire. Is Nicole Safar, legal and policy advisor for Planned Parenthood Advocates of Wisconsin, told the Isthmus in 2012. So the question is what are the true feelings of Kathleen Vinehout? Kelda Royce brought this issue up. I asked her about it. We'll have Kathleen on again soon. I feel quite confident. She is a friend of ours, and we do wish her well, but this could be an issue in this Me Too year of young and not so young female candidates running for elective office, including right here in the state of Wisconsin, where we've got Kelda Royce and Kathleen Vinehout running for governor as Democrats. Come back with us. Devil's Advocates Radio Show, the happy hour, starts right now.
I love being governor. Having a great time.
Scotty's on fire.
Do you own a rental property, or would you like to partner with a rental investment team? Call the pros you can trust at CCL Management. Rental expertise second to none, a general contractor on staff to direct repairs and improvements, and real estate brokerage services tailored to the small investor. If you're ready to invest in rental property or just need professionals to manage your real estate portfolio, call us, CCL Management, at 608-833-0009 or visit us on the web at cclmanagement.com.
Hello, I'm Tom Bennett, President of Teamsters Local 200. In 1903, the International Brotherhood of Teamsters was founded, and our local union was founded in 1935 here in Milwaukee. During the last 115 years, the principles and values for the Teamsters Union have made many improvements for working families, creating a pathway to the American middle class. Teamsters have assisted families and communities in times of need. Currently, our active and retired membership are collectively working to benefit working families across this nation for retirement security and addressing long-term social needs here in Madison, Wisconsin, and in Washington, D.C. American workers do have a voice in the workplace. Let Teamsters Local 200 be part of that action plan for you. For more information, please visit us on Facebook at Teamsters Local 200 or visit our website at www.teamsterslocal200.com or give us a call at 414-771-6363. TeamstersLocal200.com or 414-771-6363.
The Devil's Advocates.
We've got U.S. Senator Ron Johnson, our friend, live via phone. Ron, in all seriousness, if this was Barack Obama, you'd be screaming, "Stormy, stormy, stormy," from the rooftops.
You're too young to understand this excuse. This would be the Sergeant Schultz answer. I know nothing.
But as the chair of the HISCAC, sir, Homeland Security Governmental Affairs Committee, you could get to the bottom of this, could you not, Ron?
I see nothing. I know nothing.
Making radio great again.
You are listening to 1510 AM WRRD Waukesha, Milwaukee, and 1580 AM WTTN Columbus, Wisconsin's Resistance Radio.
Bridge collapse rescues. Trump's company subpoenaed. I'm Richard Johnson.
Could be an all-night effort in Miami to find people under the wreckage of a huge pedestrian bridge that has fallen onto 7 lanes of traffic.
They're working the north side of the bridge with dogs and personnel, and we're actively trying to stabilize areas to continue the search.
Miami-Dade Fire Rescue Division Chief Paul Estapian. The official death count right now is just several. As for the injured, Dr. Mark McKinney at the Kendall Regional Medical Center.
10 patients, 2 are extremely critical, both were operated on emergently, and 8 other patients who have injuries but are in stable condition.
At least 8 cars are still underneath the rubble of that pedestrian bridge that was just put into place last weekend. President Trump's business organization says it's been cooperating with special counsel Robert Mueller for months, but now an escalation. Mueller has, according to CNN and other news outlets, subpoenaed some documents from the Trump organization. The White House reaction?
President Trump technically has turned over the running of his business to his sons and others. So when Press Secretary Sarah Sanders was asked about subpoenas for the Trump organization, there was some cover for her response.
We're going to continue to fully cooperate out of respect for the special counsel. We're not going to comment for any specific questions about the Trump organization. I'd refer you there.
Still, there were several repeats of the long-standing claim by the president and those around him that there was no collusion between the Trump campaign and Russians. The revelation comes just as President Trump agreed to put new sanctions on Russian individuals and businesses as retaliation for meddling in the presidential contest. Bob Costantini, The White House.
The man who brought big-time sports to New Orleans has died. Tom Benson bought the Saints in 1985 amid rumors it would leave town and made it into a Super Bowl champion in 2009. He also owned the NBA's Pelicans. Tom Benson was 90. On Wall Street, the Dow gained 116 points. The Nasdaq lost 15. I'm Rich Johnson.
Well, Jason, I've got to tell you, you're pretty much everything this company is looking for in an entry-level candidate.
Great.
Your resume isn't quite what we're used to, but you've got a fantastic work ethic.
Thank you.
And I'm impressed by how you carry yourself.
So, should we talk about the job?
What? The job? Oh, sorry. Yeah, I have no way of recruiting or even meeting you. This interview didn't happen.
It may sound ridiculous, and that's because it kind of is. There's a huge pool of talent your company is missing out on. Meet the grads of life. Who are they? Talent worth knowing about. Young adults of unique determination and experience. An ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
Man, we really could have used him.
Don't miss out on a resource many innovative companies have already discovered. Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
When it comes to a sudden disaster, are you prepared? The man in charge of responding to big disasters at the federal level says probably not.
We're not ready for the low to no notice big events like the New Madrid earthquakes or nation-state threat.
Federal Emergency Management Agency Director Brock Long testified before the House Homeland Securities Committee today, saying that more than 4.5 million people sought federal help last year after natural disasters. He would like to see that number reduced.
We don't have a true culture of preparedness in this country. Our citizens are not prepared. We have to realistically design approaches to get them to be financially ready. We have to get them to be, we've got to teach them tangible skills like CPR again and go back to the old civil defense days of being ready.
Long says last year about 47 million Americans were affected by disasters like mudslides and hurricanes. He's pushing a long-term strategic plan to unify and improve emergency management. I'm Rich Johnson.
In the wake of a disaster, what one thing can you send that will help people the most? A blanket, a tent, a sandbag, a doctor. Actually, if you send a monetary donation, you send all these things. Even a small donation can make a big impact and can quickly become exactly what people affected by disaster need most.
In the wake of a hurricane, your monetary donation can make a huge difference to those in need. To donate, visit supporthurricanerelief.org. That's supporthurricanerelief.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
I'm State Representative Jocasta Zamaripa.
And I'm Joel Clayfish.
Listen to us on the Joel and Jocasta Show, Saturdays at 3 p.m.
She's a Latina woman from the inner city of Milwaukee, and I'm a white guy from the suburbs. Diversity in the white guy. You are not going to believe what you hear on this show. I'm telling you, you're going to have to listen. News Talk, 1510 a.m., WRRD.
Wisconsin's Resistance Radio.
For Wisconsin's Resistance Radio Network, I'm Stu Daniels with your headlines. On the day after students across the country protested against gun violence, Governor Walker has announced a new $100 million plan to improve school safety. Milwaukee County is suing several drug companies and distributors for their part in the opioid epidemic. Wisconsin Republican Representative Michael Schraw from Oshkosh, who is a lead author on the bill to close Lincoln Hills, says Republican Senate Majority Leader Scott Fitzgerald is playing games and is attempting to kill the bill. And the Bucks lost to the Magic last night, 126-117. Their next game is Saturday when the Atlanta Hawks come to town. Outside today, sunshine and mostly clear tonight. Lows tonight in the low 20s, mostly sunny tomorrow and Saturday. Highs tomorrow in the mid-30s, highs on Saturday in the low 40s. For Wisconsin's Resistance Radio Network, I'm Stu Daniels.
The following program is a presentation of DC Communications, LLC. Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Dominic, we're sliding into the 5 o'clock happy hour. Time to wake up, my friend.
I mean, it's the Thursday happy hour. Damn Crudius, damn near Friday.
Damn near Friday, but we got an hour left in this big show. And you, as our only guest, you, the listener, 844-967-2789, always toll free to you. Dom, the national headline of the day, one of the headlines of the day, and I think it's time to do a little hashtag Trump trashing.
Yes, indeed.
Mueller subpoenas Trump Organization.
What?
Ooh. Special counsel Robert Mueller has subpoenaed the Trump Organization for documents as part of the federal investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 election, the New York Times reported today. Mueller's subpoena concerns documents related to Russia, in addition to other topics, the Times reports.
Other topics?
The scope of the subpoena, not a simple ask, Dom, a subpoena, including how far it extends to topics outside Russia, was not immediately known, nor was it clear why Mueller subpoenaed the organization for the documents, as opposed to simply requesting them. Responding to questions about the subpoena on Thursday, White House Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Colonel Sanders said Trump would continue to cooperate with Mueller's efforts. As we've maintained all along, and as the president has said numerous times, there's no collusion between the campaign and Russia, she said at her press briefing. We're going to continue to fully cooperate out of respect for the special counsel until we stop respecting the special counsel. Here's the end of her quote, Dom. We're not going to comment for any specific questions about the Trump Organization. I'd refer you there.
From the Hill, Olivia Beavers and Avery Anapol. I continue. A spokesperson for the Trump Organization, Crudy, did not immediately respond to a request for comment. It's the most direct move by the special counsel to go after documents related to Trump's business empire and brings the probe closer to Trump. The president told the Times in a June interview that Mueller would be crossing a red line. Let's just remind the people, if you would, please, Fancy Brian. Let's remember cut number 82, Donald Trump.
Mueller was looking at your finances, your family's finances, unrelated to Russia. Is that a red line?
Would that be a breach of what his actual?
I would say yes. Yeah, I would say yes.
I would say yeah. Let's while we're living back in time, Brian, let's just throw the other one out there. 81, Trump.
I mean, it's possible that it's condo or something. So, I sell a lot of condo units and somebody from Russia buys a condo. Who knows? I don't make money from Russia.
Yeah, Who knows? Continuing on from the Hill, talk the red line, if the special counsel investigates the family's finances with other countries outside of Russia. The subpoena also suggests the investigation continues to evolve after reports that Mueller's team is interested in an advisor to the United Arab Emirates, signaling a probe that Trump had hoped would end soon could carry on for months.
Tom, they said by Turkey Day it was going to be done, right?
Right, last year. Mueller is investigating, of course, any possible connections between Moscow's involvement in the 2016 election, Trump's campaign, and organization, as well as whether there were efforts to obstruct the federal investigation. He's gotten guilty pleas, we know that. Charged 13 Russians, we know that. Trump has repeatedly described the investigation as a witch hunt, maintaining there's no collusion. We heard Colonel Sanders talk about that today. And it was reported earlier this month that Mueller has been asking witnesses about Donald Trump's business dealings in Russia. But this is the first reported case in which Mueller has asked for directly related documents. The special counsel and Trump's legal counsel are reportedly in negotiations about setting up an interview with the president. And finally, reports in January surfaced that Trump sought to cut off the head of the investigative probe by firing Mueller. He broached the topic with his White House legal counsel, Don McGahn, who threatened to quit if such action was pursued, ultimately discouraging Trump, at least then, from what would be a highly controversial ouster.
Did McGahn have to remind him that Trump had told him?
Yeah, you told me that.
To get rid of the Attorney General?
If you have a really bad memory and forget things, like I do all the time, is it a lie if you don't remember?
A lie of omission, perhaps? I heard Rush Limbaugh, a inferior righty bloviator, earlier today, Dom, say Jeff Sessions is on the hot seat next, and he could be out the door. And I would see that as a prelude to fire the special counsel, Dom. But the question then becomes, how do you get around senatorial confirmation? Well,
someone who already has been confirmed?
A lateral move. What about Scott Pruitt? What about Scott Pruitt? He used to be, what, like the attorney general of his state? Possibly even has, the outline of a resume that would make sense as attorney general. And I mean, Dom, we've heard all sorts of petty corruption coming out of this Trump administration of late. And I'm not even talking Fredo Jr. or Eric. I mean, we've heard about the extravagant expenditures on airline tickets, first-class travel for all the Trumps.
Man, it's other people's money. It's easy to do.
What about Ben Carson buying a $31,000 dining room table for his office?
Wasn't me until it was.
It is him.
I know, he denied it. And
a whistleblower has released emails showing it was him and his wife that picked out the $31K table.
Of course, there will be repercussions for lying to the American people, right?
But, Don, that's just a little tiny petty sort of corruption. The swampiness of the entire Trump administration. But, Dom, according to Jennifer Rubin at the Washington Post, the Trumpiest thing Trump has done this week, it's not even firing a guy via Twitter, Dom.
Come on. I mean, it is only Thursday. We still have tomorrow.
President Trump's firing by tweet of his Secretary of State was true to form, as was his hiring of a TV commentator for his chief economic advisor, while telling him he looked handsome on TV.
He says that to all the ladies.
It was, and gentlemen, apparently, if you're on TV, Dom, it was very Trump-like to suffer an apparent loss in a deep red congressional district and then lie by saying Democrat Connor Lamb supported Trump's policies. He did not on guns, healthcare, taxes, abortion, etc. The Trumpiest moment came, however, when he bragged about a fundraiser about misleading a close ally. And I don't mean Chris Christie, Dom. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, and then doubled down on the fabrication in a tweet the Post explains. Trudeau came to see me. He's a good guy, Justin, he said. No, we have no trade deficit with you. Now, this is Trump speaking on behalf of Justin Trudeau. We have none. Donald, please. Trump said, mimicking Trudeau.
Which he does fine. Trump is a great mimicker-in-chief.
I also mimic well. I got this Trump voice. I am like a parrot.
Yeah.
Trump said, mimicking Trudeau, according to audio of the private event in Missouri obtained by the Washington Post. Nice guy, good-looking guy. Comes in. Donald, we have no trade deficit. He was very proud because everybody else, we're getting killed. So he's proud. I said, Wrong, Justin, you do. I didn't even know. I had no idea. Now, he's bragging about it, right? Because it's like he schnookered the car dealer. I didn't even know. How many miles in my car? I don't even know, right? Like it's an unimportant issue, whether or not we have a trade deficit with Canada. And of course, he's threatening to tear up NAFTA. He's done more than threaten tariffs, but apparently exempted, our friends, the Canadians, and Elsinore beer from those tariffs, Dom. But I found that so enlightening of this presidency, bragging about what he doesn't even know, whereas he says, I had no idea.
I have no idea. I have no idea.
I just said, you're wrong. You know why? Because we're so stupid. And I thought they were smart. I said, you're wrong, Justin. He said, nope, we have no trade deficit. I said, well, in that case, I feel differently. I said, but I don't believe it. I sent one of our guys out, his guy, my guy. They went out. I said, check, because I can't believe it. You don't have a smartphone, Trump. You can't freaking Google like the rest of us.
We're like the stupid people.
You can't jump on your own administration's website. I mean, you are the chief executive officer here, right? In a tweet on Thursday, he repeated the falsehood that we have a trade deficit with Canada. In fact, Crudy, the office of the United States Trade Representative, says the United States has a trade surplus with Canada.
That's probably deep state Obama people saying that.
It reports that in 2016, the United States exported $12.5 billion more in goods and services than it imported from Canada, leading to a trade surplus, not a deficit. So Jennifer Rubin says, to recap, he doesn't even know whether we have a trade surplus at a time when he's imposing tariffs. He is willing to bluff, mislead an ally. He is proud of himself for bluffing, that he repeats the story. Even when the bluff is exposed, he doubles down. And no one in his administration is going to contradict him. The official policy of the United States is that we will trick our allies and humiliate them for having fallen for our deception.
It's the art of the deal, Dom.
Is that what it is?
Sure, why not? If you can't stick it to a friend. If you can't make money on a friend or an ally, who are you going to make money on?
I don't think
everybody's been outplayed.
He's not feigning ignorance. That's the problem. He's just a big BSer, and whatever. He's a contrarian to that degree. We don't have a trade deficit. Yeah, you do. No, we don't. Yeah, you do. If you do, well, maybe I feel differently, but I don't believe it. Yeah, you do.
I always thought that was your role, contrarian.
I play it well. Consider if you have a country in the European Union deciding to go along with his gambit to change the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, or a foreign intelligence service trying to decide whether the United States can be trusted with highly sensitive material, or a Baltic country leader trying to decide whether to cut a deal with Russia or rely on U.S. security promises. What you are hearing and what your domestic critics and doubters are hearing is that the President of the United States will play you for a sucker, then humiliate you by bragging that he pulled the wool over your eyes.
And then he'll tell you to eat the salad, Rex.
This conduct might be expected of a New York real estate developer who's willing to lie about anything to get his way, or of a mobster who intimidates people into accepting his lies as truth. It is not, however, remotely acceptable for the U.S. president. It demeans his office, blemishes our international reputation, and alienates allies. It puts him on the same level as his idol, Vladimir Putin, and other autocrats who revel in their dishonesty as an instrument of power. Trump is making us weaker and less trusted around the globe. Republicans who turn a blind eye or even applaud his antics are harming America. They are putting America last. Jennifer Rubin, the Right Turn blog, a conservative in the Washington Post.
Mala, Dom. Mala. Make America last again.
No, it's Maha. Maha. Make America horny again, man. Come on, Stormy Daniels is on the Maha tour right now.
Can't wait to go see her, Dom. Here she's coming to
Wisconsin in June, man.
Right around our birthday times. Just you, me, and Donald Trump. You share a birthday. June 14th.
I wonder if Trump will come out for his birthday to Wisconsin. She'll be here in Wisconsin at one of the finer places and
gentlemen's establishments.
Right.
Come back with us. Dom and Trump, they share a birthday and many other things. on many sides. Come back with us. Phone lines open to you. Toll free 844-967-2789.
I have no idea. I have no idea.
I'm kidding. You can figure that out yourself. The problem will be taken care of. On many sides. On many sides.
Hi, I'm Todd Stryker, President and CEO of Five Nines. Have you got your head in the clouds on how to manage IT for your enterprise? We can make your dreams a reality. With our enterprise cloud technology, consulting, servers, networks, and hosting, we'll manage your IT so you can focus on running your business. Consider Five Nines your personal enterprise IT solution. Enjoy technology. For more information, visit fivenines.com. That's the number 5, NINES.com.
Have a drink at Regano's Roman Coin. This neighborhood corner tavern is as classic as the street it occupies. Family owned and operated since 1966, Regano's Roman Coin is located in a former Pabst Tide House on historic Brady Street, serving an array of craft beers with a focus on Wisconsin breweries. Also, weekly drink specials, trivia on Wednesdays, seasonal sporting events, parties hosted for all occasions, and pet friendly. Open 11 a.m. Tuesday through Friday, 10 a.m. Saturday and Sunday, closed on Monday. Regano's Roman Coin, Milwaukee's pet friendly, cash only order and classic corner tavern.
Adopt US Kids presents Multiple Choice Parenting.
Your daughter just had her first breakup. Do you A, put yourself in her shoes?
How could he do this to you? And for Sheila, she has split ends.
B, console her?
Oh, sweetie, this is going to happen a lot. 4, maybe 5 more times before you get married.
C, take charge.
Got to get this all straightened out. Give a little talking to, man to man, mano a mano. Hey, Steve! Is now a good time? No? Okay, no problem. Bye.
Or D, help her find a new boyfriend.
I know a great place to meet boys. The internet. Nice, single boys. Never mind. How about some ice cream?
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
For more information on how you can adopt, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
Scott Walker thinks Wisconsin should once again hire him as governor.
You wouldn't hire me to be a neurosurgeon.
This is a person who has not worked in the private sector since 1993.
You wouldn't hire me to run condos. You wouldn't hire me to run HP.
And has made his political career.
You probably wouldn't hire me to run the United States Senate.
By using divisive tactics to the benefit of his corporate donors.
First step is we're going to deal with collective bargaining for all public employee unions. Because you divide and conquer.
Now he supports the largest publicly funded government subsidy of a foreign corporation in American history.
You know, they can go suck lemons.
And Scott Walker has yet to live up to his first campaign promise to create 250,000 jobs.
Is this a campaign promise? Something you want to be held to?
Absolutely.
Scott Walker, we the people are done sucking your lemons. This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org, p4ppc.org.
Hi, this is Brad Saug, owner of Zero Res Madison Carpet Cleaning. Zero Res is the best new technology in carpet cleaning. We have a patented process using empowered water, a high-tech process in which we force the water to act like soap. It doesn't want to stay in that state. It's jacked up and it's angry and it wants to hit the dirt and then it neutralizes. When we're done, all that's left in your carpet is just light moisture. In the end, you get the cleanest, greenest, healthiest carpet cleaning available. Call us at 848-9000. Zero Res. Spell it backward or forward. It's the right way to clean.
Tune in to The Resistance, Wisconsin's Resistance Radio. Start your weekday off with the Earl Ingram Show from 7 to 9 a.m. Next is the Stephanie Miller Show from 9 to 11. Then from 11 to 2, it's the Tom Hartman Program. At 2 o'clock, it's 414 Wisconsin. Then from 3 to 6, it's the Devil's Advocates. Mandatory listening. Wisconsin's Resistance Radio.
Everybody has been outplayed.
On a warm summer's evening, on a train bound for nowhere, I met up with a gambler. We were both too tired.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show live on Wisconsin's Resistance Radio Network, of course, on the YouTubes, on the Facebooks, on the Twitters at Devil Radio, and the phone lines are open. We'll get to some callers, 844-967-2789.
Dominic, this song reminds me a little bit of Scott Walker's Big Gamble on Foxconn. The best thing that could happen to Wisconsin taxpayers, we all just die in our sleep. We'll be indebted for the rest of our natural lives.
After we bum a cigarette and take the last swig of whiskey. That will be our deaths. Let's get to it. Brad from Harrisburg, PA. Thanks for calling, man. What do you got for us today?
Hey, Brad.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Excellent, sir.
Hey, I want to tell you, first I want to thank you for not airing Magic Pillow commercials from Minnesota and the beet juice and all that kind of stuff. I hear everybody else.
Brad, if they were writing checks, I'd be cashing them, man. I'm just going to be honest with you.
Okay, never mind that. And I want about 6 weeks ago, I heard a young man, a young Republican guy call in to talk to you, and I'm telling you about this today because it's been bugging me. And then when I've had time to call in, you have important guests on, and I want to bring up that stuff when you got these big wigs there and everything.
Well, you're an important guest now, Brad. What's on your mind, man?
Well, here's the deal. Can you take some constructive criticism?
Very poorly.
And I figured that too, so I'm going to go ahead with it.
Just throw it at me, man.
The young Republican guy called you up. And he was I thought he was very eloquent, and he spoke slowly, and he didn't interrupt you or try to talk over you or be like a bully or anything. And after about a couple minutes of it, he started to say something, and before he even got a chance to, you interrupted him, accusing him of going down one of 4 rabbit holes, whatever that means. Like these, 4 different things that you thought that he was about to say, but he probably wasn't. And so my point in bringing that up is that if you want everybody to call up and agree with you, I don't think you want that. I think you want to encourage people to have different views. And I don't know if he's called back since then, but I hope he does. But I really feel, and I could tell that day that Dom at the same time didn't really approve of how you handled that. And I just think it's important to, especially a young man like that, try to encourage him or bring him over to our side. And you really pounced on him, and I haven't heard him call back.
Brad, what was the topic? Do you recall? Because we're not remembering what this situation was.
Oh gosh, well yeah, there are so many people you talked to since then, but
all right, man.
I don't think it was I don't remember the particular subject. It was all kind of he was kind of going over some thoughts he had and getting your idea on it, and then I thought everything was going cool, and I'm thinking, wow, this is good. I'm glad to hear this guy talking. And then
Brad, you might be taking us down one of 4 rabbit holes, and we don't have time for any of them. And I don't take constructive criticism well on the air, but all callers welcome. We don't even screen them. 844-967-2789.
Does this mean we're not friends anymore? If I thought you weren't my friend, I just don't think I could bear it.
Why was the basketball court all wet? Because the players kept dribbling on it.
The dad joke. Corny, groan-worthy, but also one of the simplest ways to share a moment with your kids.
What did the buffalo say when he dropped his son off for school? Bye, son.
So take a moment to make your kid laugh, because dad jokes rule. Make your kid laugh today. Go to fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Man, do I love card night. You ready, boys? You got a king?
Go, fish dad.
Oh, come on. This is WWE superstar Titus O'Neil. It only takes a moment to make a moment. Take time to be a dad today. Learn more at 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov.
Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Well, you are listening to Wisconsin's Resistance Radio Network. Ooh, I just felt a trickle down. No, I don't recall doing it.
Hey folks, sexy liberal Stephanie Miller here. Most new Wisconsin jobs are in Dane County, it's true. Some of my listeners are relocating to Madison. Many already commute there. When asked where to turn for a trusted real estate team that understands Madison, I say the same thing. Solidarity Realty. They help you through the process and protect your consumer rights. They live their values, building community, promoting sustainability and diversity. Find them today at solidarityrealty.com and tell them Stephanie Miller sent you.
Take a look under your bed. Find stuff under there? What about jobs? No? Now try your basement. There's a pair of overalls that overall you're not so into anymore. A perfectly good laptop that hasn't sat in your lap in months. And even more stuff, but still no jobs? Well, you really have both. See, stuff is defined as household articles considered as a group. Sometimes this stuff is no longer needed. Wait, no longer needed? That can't be right. Because remember those jobs you were looking for? Those are really needed, and they're the stuff inside your stuff. Even inside that winter coat that moved with you to Phoenix. Our job is to unlock those jobs, and it starts when you donate your stuff to your local Goodwill. Here's how we do it. When you donate to Goodwill, we sell your stuff to provide job training for people right here in your community. So just by teaming up with Goodwill, you help create jobs. And isn't that worth parting with the leftover keytar from your 80s cover band? Goodwill. Donate stuff, create jobs. Find your nearest donation center at goodwill.org. A message from Goodwill and the Ad Council.
Please tune in Saturday, March 24th from noon to 3 p.m. when Earl Ingram anchors special coverage of the 10th Annual Wisconsin Grassroots Festival from Mazomanie, People Organizing for Solutions. Speakers include Lisa Graves, John Nichols, Matt Rothschild, Congressman Mark Pocan, and Senator Tammy Baldwin. Tune in right here on Wisconsin's Resistance Radio Network, Saturday, March 24th, noon to 3.
For Wisconsin's Resistance Radio, I'm Stu Daniels with your headlines. Milwaukee County is suing several drug companies and distributors for their part in the opioid epidemic. Wisconsin Republican Representative Michael Schraw from Oshkosh, who is a lead author on the bill to close Lincoln Hills, says Republican Senate Majority Leader Scott Fitzgerald is playing games and is attempting to kill the bill. Former Badger and Brookfield native Joe Thomas has announced his retirement from the NFL. Thomas was selected to the Pro Bowl in each of his first 10 seasons with the Cleveland Browns, but suffered a season-ending triceps injury about halfway through this past season. Outside today, sunshine and mostly clear tonight. Lows tonight in the low 20s, mostly sunny tomorrow and Saturday. Highs tomorrow in the mid-30s, highs on Saturday in the low 40s. For Wisconsin's Resistance Radio Network, I'm Stu Daniels.
The Devil's Advocates, making radio great again.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Wanted to finish the thought for Brad's sake out in Pennsylvania. Brad, we were up against what they call in this business a hard break. It was really hard. Brad, I'll say this in my own defense. I like to take on all comers, but some of the callers here, their reputations precede them. We've had their calls on before, and some people, let's just say, have a hard time getting to the point. And this is a fast-moving show, Dom. It moves fast. I mean, we jam like an hour's worth of information in every 30 minutes. Oh, better to Betsy DeVos. But Dom, that music, the Janis Joplin, kind of sad news, or perhaps joyful news in the radio industry, depending on whether or not you've ever been shafted by Heartless Radio, and we have. So I'm sort of celebrating.
What are you celebrating, Michael?
iHeart files for bankruptcy with last-minute creditor deal. This news, Dom, is long anticipated in the radio industry.
Yeah, not really a shocker.
Heartless Media Incorporated, the biggest U.S. radio station owner, filed for bankruptcy with a plan to half its debt load of more than $20 billion, the legacy of a leveraged buyout that hobbled the company as a digital era spawned new rivals. iHeart, with about 850 radio stations and 16,000 employees worldwide, filed for Chapter 11 protection on Wednesday in Houston, a move that allows Heartless to keep operating while it tries to cement its turnaround plan. The deal still needs approval from the court and some holdout creditors, and the company could hear again from John Malone's Liberty Media LLC, which has said it wants a stake in the reorganized media giant. Here's a quote from Chief Executive Officer of Heartless Radio, Robert Pittman. Achieving a capital structure that finally matches our impressive operating business will further enhance Heartless Media's position as America's #1 audio company. I would point out, Dom, this is a profitable company of sorts. They're making money now.
Well, they're cash flowing, but when you have a $10 billion worth of debt and you already dumped off your most or a big chunk of your
They sold
antennas,
off their towers.
Yeah, you sell the real estate, and you've got $10 billion in debt. You can barely service that.
Burning the furniture to heat the house. Here's the problem for the radio industry, for progressive media, for anyone that doesn't like Sean Hannity and Rush Limbaugh as their daily dose of righty-whitey talk radio. Those products are effectively owned by iHeartMedia. iHeartMedia's got a very successful
Premier syndication, or what's Premier.
That's also a.
Is that an asset in this?
Yes.
In Heartless Radio's
yes,
part of this
along with a lot of
bankruptcy?
billboards nationwide, and of course 850 radio stations. You know, there is either a duopoly or a triopoly, I think it's called, in every media market, effectively every major media market in America. What that means, there's 2, maybe 3 radio outlets that own every frickin' station, and then you might have some sort of outlier like this one, Wisconsin's Resistance Radio Network, WRRD, which we own here in Milwaukee. I think we're got to be one of the few independents left in this nation, certainly in the city. And then, of course, our new LMA in Madison, hopefully a ownership agreement in the future on WTTN 1580. Hope you're all listening to us on that fine station as well. But Heartless Radio, the greatest thing that could ever happen to media in this nation is the breakup, the liquidation of iHeartMedia, Dom. And I'm not at all clear that this is going to happen. Here's what's going to happen. They're going to stiff a bunch of the creditors, the bondholders, the people that thought that iHeart wasn't a crappy risk.
And there's different levels of bondholders. Some are getting paid a whole lot more interest than others, depending on when the debt was incurred.
Well, here's what's going to happen. At least this is what's being predicted, because none of the trade magazines are saying iHeart's going to be torn asunder, the different parts sold off as assets. You think if this little radio station went bankrupt, Dom, they'd say, oh, no, I'll keep operating. Or do you think they'd say, sell the asset? Well, no one is forcing, at least not to the best of my knowledge, no one's going to force Heartless Radio to sell off their 850 radio stations. I mean, we're in the number 41 market in America. Milwaukee's a mid-major metro. How many stations they got in this town? 6? 6 in Madison?
That iHeart owns in this town? Yeah.
And you wonder why you cannot get independent news from any other source than this fine source right here. Well, Dom, it's because iHeart owns them all. And they own them, and they're upside down. Do you remember the mortgage crisis? You remember that national bubble? I know it's being repeated in some small effect right now in the current market climate. But effectively, iHeart created the bubble. Once upon a time, radio as an industry billing $16 billion a year. Now it's down to $12 billion, something like that. Well, iHeart's got $20 billion in debt. One corporation.
10?
20.
$20 billion in debt.
In debt. When they come out the other side, my understanding, they may have as little as $5 billion in debt. So you're going to have this major monopoly that owns all the radio stations, is the mouthpiece of the EIB network, the premier syndication network, which includes, I believe, Hannity. I don't mean to misstate, but I know it includes Rush Limbaugh. So those products will be unaffected. They'll keep getting pumped out in every city in America. There'll be like 5 different formats in every city. Top 40, classic rock, country, cute country, and of course, right-wing talk radio in every city in America. And maybe if it's a big enough urban center, you might, throw a bone to the urban blacks by throwing some sort of jams format at them, right? And it's the replicated format in every city in America. And you get consolidated radio. You get radio produced out of either Florida or California or New York. And what do you know? It really is not reflective of perhaps the norms of the local marketplace. You got our other competitor in this city, Business Journal in Milwaukee, reporting we will hear about the new owners of Scripps, formerly Scripps TMJ 620 in this city. So we're going to have a brand new owner of 620.
Is that Intercom? Do we know?
I strongly suspect it's either Intercom or instead of hearing, righty-whitey talk over on 620, you're going to hear Christian music. About the same, in my opinion. But the only other big entity that's buying up Marketplace is the K-Love format of the Christians, right? The church group. They just bought up the Loop for $21 million in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine the day I sell this station for $21 million?
As long
if some evangelicals want to write me a check, I'm sorry, folks. I'm selling out tomorrow. In the meantime, Super Beats, we're available for your calls at 844-967-2789. I don't feel bad at all for this news, Don, but this news is not good news because this news doesn't force them to liquidate, to do the right thing for media markets. I mean, lots of strong little independents. There's strong little radio groups in Wisconsin. They could buy up some of these stations. They could compete in the individual marketplaces by actually programming and doing business in the local marketplace.
But that's not how iHeart looks at it. iHeart's selling ears, man. They're packaging
national accounts.
National accounts selling off ears, demographics. That's what it is. What the content is, what the programming is way less important than what the listener is, because that's how they make their money.
Well, they don't care. There's really no connectedness. They do their own surveys. I mean, we used to benefit. We'd see their surveys. And what works in radio? Local connectedness. What we are trying to achieve right here with the Wisconsin Resistance Radio Network. I grant you, we're two cities now. We're a modest network, but Milwaukee is your hometown. Madison is my hometown. I don't think it's any big stretch for us to do sort of this bi-coastal, some would call us liberal talk radio product. I just call us the greatest radio show ever, Dom.
Yes.
But the news today, iHeart finally in bankruptcy, and my fear is when they come out the other side, they're going to be stronger and worse, and you're not going to get less consolidation. You're going to get more.
844-967-2789. Let's get back to some of the callers. Mark, you are next. Thanks for calling, man. What do you got for
Mark
us
from
today?
the SAC.
Yeah, it's just thinking here. I originally called about that teacher that shot into the ceiling, and I just unbelievable, violation of gun safety there.
A desk bump?
I just don't understand that one there.
I told you kids to stop chewing gum.
Well, the thing is, you're always supposed to have the muzzle point in a safe direction, but in a building like that, there's no place to point the muzzle because
there's people all around.
Couldn't you point it downwards?
No, because there's somebody in the basement, maybe. I mean, the thing of it is that the gun should have been empty. There shouldn't have been anything in the magazine, anything in the chamber. I mean, why he didn't? The first thing you do when you pick up a firearm like that, you check the chamber.
Yes, sir.
I mean, that's number 2 on the National Shooting Sports Federation when they for the rules there. But the other thing is that is there going to be an opportunity? I mean, I was thinking while you're talking about the radio markets open, that there might be some potential stations available. Now, Tom Steyer's has been dumping some money in, doing some ad buys. Wouldn't it be better if he was actually going out there and buying some radio stations and actually building some infrastructure for the liberal progressive message to get out?
Well, Mark, from your lips to some billionaires' ears, Oprah, you listening today? What I would say is this, Mark. I certainly think that this is a project that's worthwhile. I got my net worth wrapped up in this project. I sure as hell hope that this is a worthy project. But I think this radio network, Wisconsin's Resistance Radio Network, 1510 AM, 1580, and I'm going to keep saying them because they're ours, but this network can set an example. We're covering about 2/3 of the Democratic voters in the state of Wisconsin. And someday there's going to be a bad headline, be it the gubernatorial candidate that survives the primary, or perhaps it'll be Senator Tammy Baldwin or Gwen Moore, or who knows. But Democrats need to have a friendly place to go. You need to know that if there's a bad headline about Tony Evers has a platform to go and speak his piece. And it doesn't mean we're going to give Tony Evers nothing but softballs. You're thinking of right-wing talk radio. But Tony Evers needs a platform, or any of the other Dem gubernatorial candidates, or anybody else running as a Dem. And quite frankly, should they be successful, if this is the blue wave that I'm praying for, then we, the people of the great state of Wisconsin, need a way to hold even the Democrats accountable to do what they promised us they were going to do. And that's our role as well. And I'll just tell you this. I think we're doing the best damn job ever, Dom.
Ever. Well said, Curdy. Thanks for the call, Mark. 844-967-2789.
And if Tom Steyer's, if you're listening, sir.
Oprah, you too.
Yeah, I'll take your money. Yeah. Magic pillows, super beats, Dem money, union money. I'll take all your monies. Just write it out to cash. We'll simplify it. We'll be efficient around here. We're adding some new sponsors. In fact, Bounce Milwaukee had a little boycott event last night. Earl Ingram attended on behalf of our station, and we appreciate Bounce Milwaukee. They are new sponsors right here on WRRD 1510 AM, and of course playing out across the Wisconsin Resistance Radio Network. And Dom, when we come back, I want to talk about at least one more story. Going to get back to the phones at 844-967-2789. But Larry Kudlow, the new National Economic Advisor to the President. I mean, this is like the same guy that said bye, bye, bye to Heartless Radio. Dom, this man could not be more wrong on his financial forecasting around 2007, 2008. You remember when the world blew up and Larry Kudlow was playing his violin. Come back with us. We'll talk more.
I stabbed a man in the heart. Let this be a reminder to you all that this organization will not tolerate failure.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe. I suggest the Democrats use it.
Wisconsin Republican Attorney General Brad Schilling claims he will further investigate the investigators of the John Doe 2 investigation because it was all a partisan witch hunt. Wisconsin State Rep Chris Taylor said this.
There is absolutely no concern expressed by this Attorney General or these Republican legislators about the underlying criminal conduct that this corruption investigation revealed. Scott Walker was breaking laws.
And Brad Schilling fails to acknowledge the 6 criminal convictions, 4 felonies in the Scott Walker John Doe 1. Was that also a partisan witch hunt?
One newspaper has done a good job. It's a national paper, the Wall Street Journal.
And AG Schilling filed an embarrassing hack partisan bull report where he's still looking for the leaker. Get a clue. Wasn't it Eric O'Kee from Wisconsin Club for Growth?
Well, I was born to do this.
This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org, p4ppc.org.
I'm Andy Buck, and I'm proud to be union.
Tell me about the underground economy.
Well, the underground economy is essentially workers being exploited, and they're being exploited all over the state. They're working for no benefits, no retirement, and if you don't join your brothers and sisters, you don't respect your craft.
Andy, why should I hire union?
Crudy, you should hire union because you want the job done right the first time. We represent the highest skilled, safety-trained workers in the industries that we represent. Glazers, painters, and drywall finishers. Join us. Painters and Allied Trades, District Council 7.
The Devil's Advocates.
U.S. Senator Ron Johnson, our friend, live via phone. What about simply raising the age of weapons purchases to 21 years of age?
We're sending 18, 19, 20, 21-year-olds over to Afghanistan, and they're dying. They ought to be able to vote. They ought to be able to have a beer, and they ought to be able to buy a gun to hunt with as well.
Are you suggesting we lower the drinking age?
No. Can't they do that now? What is the age nowadays?
It's 21, sir.
We drink when we toast. We toast when we drink.
Yikes.
Do you own a rental property, or would you like to partner with a rental investment team? Call the pros you can trust at CCL Management. Rental expertise second to none, a general contractor on staff to direct repairs and improvements, and real estate brokerage services tailored to the small investor. If you're ready to invest in rental property or just need professionals to manage your real estate portfolio, call us, CCL Management, at 608-833-0009 or visit us on the web at cclmanagement.com.
Hello, I'm Tom Bennett, President of Teamsters Local 200. In 1903, the International Brotherhood of Teamsters was founded, and our local union was founded in 1935 here in Milwaukee. During the last 115 years, the principles and values for the Teamsters Union have made many improvements for working families, creating a pathway to the American middle class. Teamsters have assisted families and communities in times of need. Currently, our active and retired membership are collectively working to benefit working families across this nation for retirement security and addressing long-term social needs here in Madison, Wisconsin, and in Washington, D.C. American workers do have a voice in the workplace. Let Teamsters Local 200 be part of that action plan for you. For more information, please visit us on Facebook at Teamsters Local 200 or visit our website at www.teamsterslocal200.com or give us a call at 414-771-6363. TeamstersLocal200.com or 414-771-6363.
Driving means
freedom,
exploration,
fun,
pride,
flexibility,
travel,
protection,
friendship,
escape,
independence.
Distracted driving means
danger,
recklessness,
irresponsible,
chaos, police, devastation, injury,
tears, death.
Safe driving means staying alert and staying alive.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org, a message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, Noise, and the Ad Council.
I don't know if you know the Devil's Advocates, but they are kind of a big deal.
And we are back. Thank you for listening. We are the Devil's Advocates radio show. This is Wisconsin's Resistance Radio Network. And the phone lines are open, 844-967-2789.
What does the voice of God mean? Kind of a big deal.
Kind of?
Kind of? Dom, sad news.
What's that?
Fredo Jr., Donald Trump Jr.'s wife, Vanessa.
Yeah, Fredo. Remember him.
Suing him for divorce.
Really?
Both Vanessa and Fredo Jr., 40 years of age. She a former model actress. Aren't they all, Dom? Very pretty woman. And mother of 5. Count them, 5.
Pretty and fertile.
Trump's grandkids. And as far as we know, they're all Fredos.
As far as we know. So they're getting divorced?
They're getting divorced.
And I want respect! Yeah, well.
This is now being widely reported. I was a little nervous about getting,
T-Bowed
on this one.
T-Bowed, man.
It first was reported on the New York Post, page 6, but it's in the Journal Sentinel now.
So
if they screwed it up, then I blame them.
844-967-2789, like father, like son. Let's get to the phones. Eric Racine, Wisconsin, you're up. Hey, what you got for us today? Hello, Eric. Eric going once. Eric going twice.
Bye, Eric. Have a good day.
Thanks for the call, Eric.
Apparently, Eric's impatient.
Too bad. That means the line's open for you. 844-967-2789. In the meantime, Crudy, President Trump has a brand new, economic advisor?
As Dana Milbank writes at the Washington Post, at least the headline, Larry Kudlow may have been more wrong about the economy than anyone alive. It was the eve of the biggest economic collapse since the Great Depression. Many on Wall Street worried that a recession loomed and that the housing bubble was bursting. And then there was Larry Kudlow, the man President Trump just tapped to be his top economic advisor. Here's a quote, Tom, from Kudlow. Despite all the gloom and doom from the economic pessimist, the resilient U.S. economy continues moving ahead, he wrote on December 7, 2007 in the National Review, predicting that gloomy forecasters would wind up with egg on their faces. I think he got the whole omelet, Dom. Kudlow, who previously derided as bubbleheads those who warned about the housing bubble, now wrote that very positive news in housing should cushion falling home sales and prices. There's no recession coming. The pessimistas were wrong and it's not going to happen, wrote Kudlow. The Bush boom is alive and well. It's finishing up its 6th consecutive year with more to come. Yes, it's still the greatest story never told.
Unquote.
You want to help me with this, Don?
You want to bounce around? We're getting a little short on time here. I'd like to go to some of the other items that Kudlow was wrong about.
Are you talking about his cocaine habit?
Oh, I didn't know he had a cocaine habit.
He had a tremendous cocaine habit.
Really?
When he was scooped up by Buckley to head up the economic part of the National Review, he was like basically fired from Wall Street over his cocaine habit.
Well,
kind of like the guy at ESPN.
Wall Street in the 80s, man, those are good times. Here's one, Crudy. Even a stop clock is right twice a day, they say, but Kudlow's misfires just keep coming. Here's some examples. 1993, Kudlow proclaims in a speech, "There is no question that President Clinton's across-the-board tax increases on labor, capital, and energy will throw a wet blanket over the economy and depress the economy's long-run potential." End quote. The economy goes on to an 8-year expansion and adds 21 million jobs.
In 2001, Kudlow writes in the National Review about George W.'s tax cuts, faster economic growth, and more profitable productivity returns will generate higher tax revenues at the new lower tax rates. Future budget surpluses will rise, not fall. Tax revenue falls, and the budget goes from surplus into deep deficits, Dom.
In 2002, Kudlow, arguing for war in Iraq, writes in the National Review, quote, the shock therapy of decisive war will elevate the stock market by a couple thousand points, unquote. The market falls and the Dow Jones doesn't get a couple thousand point elevation for years.
Dom, in 2009, Kudlow says in an interview, President Obama is waging war on investors. He's waging war against businesses. In a piece in the Washington Times, he warned that inflation could ratchet higher. The stock market and corporate profits climb to records while inflation remains historically low. It's only been 9 years, Dom. Now history is repeating itself. Writing in the National Review in December, Kudlow embraced the Trump tax cuts, dismissed dreary mainstream forecast, and predicted annual growth as high as 5%. Echoing almost word for word his failed 2002 prediction, he forecast that the faster economic growth will generate much higher tax revenues. As Dana Milbanks writes in conclusion, what could possibly go wrong? Thank you, everyone, for listening to this big show. Earl Ingram Jr. tomorrow morning, 7:30 a.m., playing out his interview with Eric Holder, the former Attorney General of the great United States. Thank you, State Senator Jennifer Schilling, Senate Minority Leader, for joining us. Of course, Tony Eber, State Superintendent of Public Instruction, a fine Dem gubernatorial candidate as well. We thank you all for listening. Do it all again tomorrow. It's Friday. We'll air some grievances. We'll wake them up from the beginning.
Did you ask me a question?
I have no idea. I have no idea.
Don't even think about it.
We're like the stupid people.
Have a drink at Regano's Roman Coin. This neighborhood corner tavern is as classic as the street it occupies. Family owned and operated since 1966, Regano's Roman Coin is located in a former Pabst Tide House on historic Brady Street, serving an array of craft beers with a focus on Wisconsin breweries. Also, weekly drink specials, trivia on Wednesdays, seasonal sporting events, parties hosted for all occasions, and pet friendly. Open 11 a.m. Tuesday through Friday, 10 a.m. Saturday and Sunday, closed on Monday. Regano's Roman Coin, Milwaukee's pet friendly, cash only order in class.